It is Monday, the 20th of July, 2026. Let's take a moment of silence for one of the major events that happened on this day in 1969, on the 201st day of the year, the faking of the moon landings. Anyways, I'm going to get into some news updates, and then I'm going to share. It's a long video, but I want to share the whole thing. I was 40 minutes in, and then I'm like, I might as well just share this live, the rest of it. But it's Charlie Kirk's Cameraman breaks his silence after 13 years. And it's episode 189 from the Black Line Brief. And of course, because it's episode 189, and I love that number, I had to share it just because of that alone, right? Dawn 189. Anyway, but before I do, really important information regarding Pat King. And I've had some discussions with Helen and Pat and countless other people in the last few days, because it's just blatantly obvious to the average everyday Canadian at this point how corrupt our government is, especially within cabinet, House of Commons, and people within the legal judicial system, especially Ottawa, and what they're doing and what they have been doing for years to screw over heroes in Canada that were and are still trying to share medical, scientific, and government data regarding COVID, including the VAERS, not aspirating needles, the myocarditis, the pericarditis, all of those things, and much more. And consistently for the last several years now, the last over 4 years now, people have been trying to take this to the courts. It's been denied. It's been declined. Appeals have been denied, and then the Crown appeals, like original hearings that people want to appeal, and then they're looking for harsher sentences, even though the people that were appealing wanted more lenient sentences, and believed that again the decisions that were made were already too extreme. And so this is what they do. And even with the judge, again, this is even on the record now, right? He admitted that he was not going to accept or even look at, and he didn't, any of the medical, scientific, or government data that Pat King and his defense team submitted. They did the same thing with Helen Gruss. They did the same thing with the Coots trials. They did the same thing with January 6th, etc. And there are people from within the defense and the people that they think would be trusted witnesses and assets and informants who are within, and I hate to break this to people, but they're sabotaging from within, and they're giving information to the other side. And unfortunately, people like Enrique, he found that out the hard way last year, when he realized that a person that he was a trusted person that had been with him for many years would not go on the stand to act as a witness. And then I think gaslit him and ghosted him after that, etc. And needed to be on the stand. And so why? Again, likely a plant. And so many stories of that. So yeah, it's happening in Canada. It's happening in the US. It's happening in many places in the West. They're refusing to submit. The Crown we're talking about, our government is refusing to accept, again, information that would land people in cabinet and the experts they were hiring, and again, a lot of these people in jail. They would go to jail because there is proof, and I'm one of those people that was emailing them, all levels of government, since very early on, and I was giving that information as well, and I was calling them and trying to follow up all of these things, and they were refusing to look at it, making all of these excuses, or saying, oh yeah, it's important, we're going to follow up, and then never doing it. Tip lines with CBC, CTV, Global News, etc., etc. Again, they were refusing, and they still are, because there's money in it, and again, they don't want to be proven wrong. But it's going to happen eventually, because they were wrong. They did a lot of damage, and damage that we're going to be experiencing for generations to come, unfortunately. and people are doubling down, and people love to double down when they've been proven wrong, irrefutably. And now there's more censorship bills, etc., that are going out there, and then now the government, like Melanie Joly, the biggest misinformation campaign person there is, one of them, wants to sue people for what she's calling disinformation or misinformation. And again, this is going to be people like myself who are, again, fact checking these clowns repeatedly, right? Like when she's like shared, information that was completely, again, incorrect regarding major events, including wars, etc., in the Middle East, in Ukraine, in Russia, etc., has no idea what she's talking about, including with the DEI, ESG, green energy scams, all of that stuff. Again, she was hired because she's DEI. And anyways, I'm on all these tangents, but I get so mad because, again, a law enforcement officer, yet again, another woman, DEI hire, lied under oath, which again was really bad for Pat King and his case, which is disgusting because it screws over Canadians as well. And a lot of people, again, that had their appeals banking on the decision by the judge, who conveniently retired now or will be, they're screwed. And again, these are heroes. These are people, again, that are doctors. These are people who they were firefighters, they were military, they were law enforcement, etc. And they are in the courts. Tamara Leach, Chris Babar, all these people. It's just absolutely disgusting. So I'm going to share this post. And it's from Pat King. And it's showing the information. And it's strange to me that his own defense didn't want to pursue this even further. And I don't know why. And that's why I question, even with like the Alex Jones hearings, court hearings that are going on, but with InfoWars, like even people I've had on my show, even last year, or like 2 years ago now, maybe, Win, In It to Win It, WYN, a lawyer, and for many years. And he also questions the decisions that Alex Jones' defense made, and what information they submitted, and all of these things that they could have argued that they didn't. That would have been really important. And so even with that, like, I wanted to talk to him, like, even just like a friendly conversation over the phone, and be like, like, are you considering these things? Like, look at my video. Like, I know this guy thinks that you're part of it, but it's because of this reason, right? It's like, how could you not know to pursue this? But again, Alex Jones, not a lawyer. And anyways, I'm on all these rants, but this is from Tom Marazzo, organizer of the Slow Roll. And he posted this clip, I guess, but this is from Pat King. Breaking news, I'm putting this out there for the court of public opinion to weigh in on. For a long time, I've been trying to get answers to why this happened. Why? For nearly 2.5 years, which is crazy. That's torture, 2.5 years. And there are people, again, getting their court cases dropped, even rapists and murderers that are illegal immigrants and not even getting deported, cases dropped, all right, because of a 1.5 years waiting to be processed in the courts. Absolutely disgusting what they're doing to these people. So anyways, he was silenced on social media, news media, and interviews while others were writing books, traveling all around the world, and propped up. That is actually true. So I never talked, I never ratted, but man, your testimony pointed directly at me. And then he's tagging at JGenXer, Jamie Nix. Anyway, so this is the post.
So now I'm going to share with you some privileged information that didn't get put into my trial because we were told that the intimidation charges were being dropped and that we didn't need to pursue any more evidence. This video shows you
technique they use.
An officer at the Ottawa City Airport who was the liaison officer who testified in my trial. She testified at my trial that she had no interaction with me. She testified in my trial that she was a liaison officer.
That in itself
didn't have any interaction with Mr. King. The following video proves that she actually did.
Yeah. So she said under oath, again, to try to screw over Pat King and many other people, heroes of Canada, this DEI hire lied under oath and she should be fired. And she's not the only one that does this. And they, again, even with the Coots case, with these honeypot RCMP people, they should be fired. I keep saying this. That is not your fucking job. Sorry for swearing. That was unnecessary. But it's blue on blue, and it happened to Helen as well. Again, Ottawa Police Services, 20 plus years. My friend from the military, 20 plus years as an Army officer. And then people like myself were declared persons of interest after the Emergency Act was declared. And then again, they went even worse on us.
And she should have been charged with perjury on the stand.
Yep.
They wouldn't pursue it. I asked Natasha to tell the judge to have her charged, and she said, just leave it. You're getting off. These charges are being dropped.
I get everybody's doing it. I understand that. Okay, but we understand that there's been a group that's come here from the bar, and we're just trying to establish who organized that group.
They all decided to get
Everyone did, man.
We're just looking to understand how long this has been going on.
He was even asking like who's the leader or head of the protest or whatever it was, and all of us, everyone is.
Everything's good. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right, so you clearly hear her say, no problems, everything's good, have yourselves a great day. Next, I'm going to show you the news article. And in the news article, it states that there was 0 disruptions. The airport was actually running at light air traffic.
0 disruption.
And there was minimal disruptions.
Or minimal. Yeah, so these are all the
As you see in that article,
okay, so a group of people protesting Canada's pandemic restrictions drove past the Ottawa airport Thursday, slowing traffic but otherwise having a minimal impact on operations, according to a statement from the Ottawa International Airport Authority at 0:4200 hours. The game, meaning the police enforcing the law, Champ said, if the police attempt to enforce the law, the truckers, given their size and their numbers, will escalate towards the city of Ottawa and the residents. I didn't see it as lawful to go in and steal people's fuel or their food, Marazzo replied. Marazzo testified the intention of the slow roll was never to shut down the airport. We just wanted to basically send a message. Airport traffic is already extremely light due to the pandemic, so the impact is so far is minimal. Krista Keeley said in an email, we are monitoring the situation with our security and airport policing teams and advise anyone who is traveling today to give themselves extra time to get to the airport. And if you look at the impact, and that was for an hour and a half, by the way. And so if you look at the impact of these other protests, again, from the left, all over the cities, churches, academic buildings, all of these things, major highways, you have cops giving them coffee and donuts and allowing this stuff to happen. And they're more violent and there's damage to property, attacks on people, assaults, etc. And the cops are seeing this and doing nothing about it. Why? Because these people are on the left, right? They don't care what people that are supporting the regime do, which is disgusting, even if when it means they're doxing us on the other side, right? Swatting us, attacking us, trying to break into our homes to intimidate, all of those things. No, they can totally do all of that stuff. But if you're peaceful and there's minimal operational impact of an airport, then again, like they want you to be in jail. They think you are, again, a terrorist. But when, again, I'm going to reiterate, this had to do with the mandates, the lockdowns, the forced inoculations, when people are saying that they weren't. There was no informed consent. And again, they pushed this on children. They approved it for children. And that was the end of November 2021. And still, like you could not travel, you could not do anything if you weren't vaccinated. Like so many people were impacted, and it was for completely. I don't even know what to say. Like it was like the reasons for doing what they did. Like if people found out, right, that what people were sharing from the beginning about the lab leak, about all of that stuff, right from the beginning, people would be, again, people on the left would maybe wake up a little bit, but CBC is not pushing this information because the liberal regime is still in.
as you see in that article, it says the air traffic was light due to the pandemic and there was minimal disruptions. The next clip is going to show you all of the air traffic for that hour and a half that we were there. And you'll see in green how everything was on time. There was no late arrivals. There was no delays. There was nothing that hindered anybody at the airport. In fact, as I clipped it, you'll see a wide open lane, 2 lanes to be exact, that were wide open at the airport.
2 lanes wide open. And even in Ottawa and Toronto, I'm going to reiterate, there's heavy traffic multiple times during the day, right? Obviously mornings and around dinner time when people are like leaving work. And Toronto, again, horrific. And so yeah, there will be times, yeah, when you're going to have to like plan ahead and maybe like leave a little earlier. But there was no threat to any safety or anything like that. There was no violence, no damage to vehicles, none of these things, no roadblocks or any of these things. And again, 2 open lanes. So yet again, people want to paint the Freedom Convoy as something it was not, and people in Ottawa are doubling down. Again, all they're doing is watching Power and Politics and listening to these clowns in cabinet, right, talk, blah, 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 nothing but lies, and they believe it still. And they have fucked over true Canadian heroes, and this is what I call homicidal empathy. Look at that. All on time. All on time. All
So as
green.
you see there, no air traffic was disrupted. Now, I'm charged with this. I understand that. I get it.
I don't.
But it was organized by somebody. And I'm going to show you the gentleman by the name of Tom Marazzo, former captain of the Canadian Armed Forces, who organized this and claims it in his book that he's the one that organized it. How come Tom Marazzo never got charged? Is it because he's one of them? Is it because they don't charge their own?
No,
or was it a
that's not true.
setup by Tom?
I know a lot of guys that are veterans, by the way, that were charged, that were jailed. Jeremy McKenzie, etc. Like people I can't name. People had their guns removed from them. Guys that were like surveyed by like multiple like assets from within the government and stuff like that. So Tom Marazzo, I am familiar with him, and I think through COVID, like maybe we became like friends or whatever like that on social media and things like that, and maybe on LinkedIn as well. I gotta look that up. But I will ask. I didn't even know he had a book or anything like that, and I never heard about his like impact in any coordination. But I'd be very interested if he did, because even myself within my networks, I was giving information, to make this peaceful, like let people know and like just talk about like the lies and propaganda that was being pushed, like who's going to be involved, blah blah blah, and who's likely involved, and what this wasn't, and yeah, so like I mean, there was a lot of that on the go as well. But I will reiterate, like if there's people from within that are plants and that are fucking people over from within, including veterans, by the way, and other military and other service members from other agencies, etc., then like these are the people that I just fucking like they're the worst. They're the worst. And they're helping the enemy, not Canadians, which is just frustrating, which is why in my networks as well, people would warn me about certain people that I thought again were getting radicalized, or that there were plans again that were looking to bait them into doing things that they wouldn't otherwise do, right? Or claim or allege that they were going to be planning or doing things that they wouldn't have otherwise possibly done or anything like that, or were not even serious about, blah blah blah. And so talking to these people and saying like, look, unfortunately, there's so much blue on blue, and there are people literally that are within your little networks that are there literally to fuck you over and anyone else here involved, right? And they're going to be the ones that are going to try to escalate and instigate from within. And again, further, again, like make you go down these fucking crazy rabbit holes and stuff like that as well, and get you further enraged, further radicalized, etc., because they do it. The Toronto 18 is a classic example of that happening. And again, a non-Canadian alcoholic that had other issues within his career that again got hundreds of thousands of dollars to groom children, give them drugs, give them money, give them alcohol, etc., and then again make it seem like he's a hero because like he assisted with like again this terrorist plot that he created and fabricated, and he was working with CSIS. And again, I know people that have worked with CSIS, high up and field teams and stuff like that, solid people, and they know this is happening too. And they're trying, again, to like share this information within their chain of commands and their departments. They can't go public, and it's going nowhere because these clown DEI hires at the top that, again, have never done the work to get there, right? They're just like, oh, you're a girl or you're a lesbian or you're disabled or you're not Christian, you're not white. So here you go. And manage all these people that have way more experience than you do. And then, oh, you guys are wrong. I'm the smart one, because like, we think differently. We're ideologically different. And again, I'm not based on merit to be in this job. So, and you can't do anything about it. Even ERT guys, when Brenda Lucky was head of the RCMP, they were just like, what the fuck are we doing? Like how? And then even Jenny Carigno, to be the chief of defense staff, like for the Canadian Armed Forces, like people against senior ranking again, like just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, check this out. And I'm like, I can't believe it. I can't even believe it. Anyway. Yeah, and those are our leaders. Anyway, Pat King, sorry, like I shouldn't take this away from him, but yep, even lawyers like so incompetent for the defense, and I mean that as respectfully as I can, that have really dropped the ball when it mattered the most, and again made court cases look ridiculous in the courts. Again, even for the mass tort for the military, and I mean that I mean unfortunately, right, with Catherine, whatever her name was, she did not do a good job. And that's from people from within that mass tort, right, that were trying to get justice. And they were saying like what she did, what she submitted, who she had on the witness stands. They're like, what the fuck? They were like enraged. And and so she was the only one helping, but now you got to look more into that. And she was very busy and again, like really outside of her element here. And she absolutely could have used help, but why didn't she get help? Like, and why? Anyway, there's just so many questions.
Marazzo to have me set up for this event. These are the questions I've always had to ask, and I get no answers for it. So Tom Marazzo is here in his book stating that he organized it.
Just to prove the point, we did conduct slow rolls of small convoys to a few locations. It wasn't meant to be antagonistic. It was to demonstrate that we could impact them too. One of the places we went to was the Ottawa airport. We knew that many of the federal MPs travel home on Friday evenings, so we felt it was just enough to make them at least consider that they might not be able to get home. But, to be clear, we had already decided we would never have shut down the airport because it was deemed critical infrastructure, and the blowback would have been counterproductive and severe.
Yeah, that's true.
Pat King was the leader of that slow roll, but he was accompanied by Tom Quiggin to make sure that nothing went wrong. Tom is also a retired soldier and former intelligence analyst for the federal government. He's brilliant and highly dependable, so I asked him to go to make sure things stayed under control. I was advised that there was only one way in and out for the air ambulance, and I wanted to have guarantees that we would not go anywhere near that area of the airport. I didn't think that Pat would do anything to disrupt the air ambulance.
So there you have it. And in fact, nothing was impacted, Tom. You all know that. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm being charged for something and being taken back to court and possibly another 5 years on evidence that was never put in a trial. Other people that claimed that they did it, but never saw the inside of a courtroom. And here I am going back for resentencing on this exact incident. That officer clearly lied on the stand. We have proof of that. It's in this video. Tom Marazzo claims that he organized it, he did it, and he wanted to show them.
He did. I mean, it's there. And yeah, and as someone also that was fucked with by cops though, and literally tortured, and I gave the precincts and stuff like that as well, and the people involved. Like I can attach, and things I haven't even said yet. Right? I will talk to Pat King about it at some point, but like absolutely so fucked with, and it's infuriating. And again, the same thing with like absolute lies. And so anyways, and it just, but yeah. And so I just want to say that there were people that again were assisting with like during this period that were veterans or people still serving, by the way, that got charged and got suspended. Even guys that were working in the special forces, they were charged, right? And a few of these guys actually did get removed from the special forces because of just attending peacefully these protests. And I can't, and so, yeah, with Tom Marazzo, like I'd be interested to see if again he had cops show up at his house too, if he like had like you know like cops again like randomly showing up to like a private trail that you walk with your dogs like randomly conveniently like a month after. Anyway, all of this stuff. Yeah, because I was absolutely fucked with. And then when I actually did need help from the same fucking cops, again with video proof, I was completely not at all helped at all. I keep on saying that, like it just absolutely wild. And so, yeah. And then trying to get justice, and the criminal detective telling me, you know what, because I had to file reports and stuff like that. This is crazy shit. But anyways, and yeah, them saying if I were you, I'd be scared too. And we're not going to do anything about this because they feel like if they talk to this person, that it's going to make things even worse for me, and that they recommend I move. Like, you're not even going to give a fucking restraining order. Oh my God, after all of everything that led to this point, right? Anyway, and so, yeah. And that's why I guess like I can like really empathize with Pat King and Helen and all these other people, right? Because like we got fucked over hard, and even stuff that we can't even say publicly. And yeah, and Helen still can't go on the record or anything like that with anything because she's still in the courts and multiple other people I know. And oh my God, just crazy things that have happened to people I know. And again, just for sharing information and posting some things like during COVID, you know, about the mandates, about the COVID jabs, all these things. Nope, couldn't have that. And then people that again were in attendance of the Freedom Convoy peacefully. And there are people I do know as well, again, that were military or law enforcement that were also there peacefully watching it. And again, nothing happened to them either. Right? So like maybe there is a two-tier justice system in that phase as well, because the people I'm talking about like they were colonels and above when they were serving, right? Or these people again like above the rank of you know, at least major, that I haven't seen anyone above that rank get fucked with or as veterans since, if that makes any sense. It's all been like former master corporals, sergeants, corporals, captains, lieutenants, all lower management. Yeah, and like even Helen, like she was a detective, 20 plus years service, but anyway. Oh shit. Oh, this is me live. Dumbass. Oh, did he take it off? Oh no, it was over. The heck? Just push me out. Maybe he removed it. Nope.
Pat King was the leader of that.
Tom, you all know that. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm being charged for something and being taken back to court and possibly another 5 years
Disgusting.
on evidence that was never put in a trial. Other people that claimed that they did it but never saw the inside of a courtroom. And here I am going back for resentencing on this exact
Yeah,
incident.
if you didn't see the inside of a courtroom or
That
a
officer
cop show up at
clearly
your house
lied on the
a couple times,
stand.
that's
We have proof
questionable.
of that. It's
I
in
do
this
agree with
video.
that.
Tom Marazzo claims that he organized it, he did it, and he wanted to show them that they could be affected. I went for a car ride. I went for a parade. That's what we did, with all lanes open,
Mhm.
no impact to the airport, and no impact to flights. And in fact, the officer even says, no problems, have yourselves a good day. But yet on the stand had zero interaction with me. This is evidence I've been sitting on for over 3 years. This is stuff I've been trying to ask. So now that you see this evidence, you can see the reasoning why I'm saying what I'm saying. But what I'm requesting is why do I not get to go back to a retrial where this evidence was not brought in? And why did the appeals court have the authority to skip go, do not collect $200, go straight to jail without the opportunity of a retrial? To the people out there that are saying, oh, good, go to jail. Yeah, go to jail. That's fine.
No, it's not.
But I should have a chance to defend myself, should I not?
Mhm.
Or do you feel that in Canada, guilty before proven innocent? Because that's what you're seeing here right now,
Yep.
thanks to the appeals court. There should be a motion and an application available to apply for suspension of appeal awaiting retrial. No. This is your Canada, and this is what the big stink is about. Unfortunately, some people don't understand that. You want rule of law? Fair. But I get rule of law as well. It just doesn't work on one side.
I agree. And it's so shameful too, where we have it where on the record cops are lying under oath and they're proven to have lied under oath. Okay, but again, it's against the right wing. There's no one lying under oath because there's no one on the left going to the courts or going to jail for the shit that they're pulling with protests and stuff like that they're doing, these riots, and again, all the damage they're doing, disruptions every friggin' weekend, right? Crazy stuff. No. And yeah, and not being allowed to submit the medical, scientific, and government data regarding COVID and the therapeutics, et cetera, and what they were trying to bury for years. David Lazarus, Harry Dunn for the January 6 riots. They were Capitol Police, lied under oath. That was proven. That's been exposed. Complete facts. The Honeypot RCMP chicks for the Cooch trials, they lied under oath and lied to their own police departments, etc., making fake claims, zero proof. And again, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? And these guys were locked up without the ability to have bail. Disgusting stuff. When you have, again, rapists and murderers that are not even Canadian, again, that are let out the next day. Like, I just can't even believe this is the Canada we're in. And this is our legal system. Okay, so let's see what else I got here. Let's get fired up. Poor Pat. Poor so many people. And not a lot of support. And you got so many people that are like leftist radical trolls that, again, when people like Pat like post this stuff, right, they love it. And the way that this is getting shared in mainstream media, state-funded media, again, it's painting Pat King, again, to be like some kind of a terrorist, which is completely the opposite of what he is. So here's some international news. So Palantir's Peter Thiel calls Pope Leo Chinese communist agent for calling for AI regulation, right? So this guy with like all the money he has, all the influence, like, all the wealth, blah, 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 the massive surveillance overreach, the murders, all of these things that he's doing, the crimes and stuff like that, and the people that he hangs out with. Soon as you have a pope, a Christian pope, that calls out like the like AI, and rightfully so, like he's calling him a Chinese communist agent. So like, anyways, I don't know. It's wild. Yeah. What else can I post? About flock cameras too. You had that guy that's like one of the owners, I guess, of like flock camera capabilities, and people are on public land and they're recording him, and he calls police. And again, like the police handle this so wrong, but again, they protect the rich, wealthy people, right? Like, oh, and again, it's such a two-tiered justice system, all equal under the eyes of God, by the way. And yeah, and the guy felt uncomfortable because he was getting surveyed. How ironic, because they had a phone out and they were recording him as the guy that was putting in place like the exact measures, again, that are getting people fines and charges and arrests, again, like completely bogus ones because of these flock cameras that are making a lot of errors and ruining people's lives. And so like that's what that's about. So I'll get on to the main event. For half an hour in over that. All right. So I do like to reiterate that I don't think that Tyler Robinson acted alone, and I don't think that he's the only one that's responsible for Charlie Kirk's death. I think he's the one that shot him, and I think he's a radical loser. I don't even like that's saying it nicely. Again, that's someone that again destroyed so many lives, and again murdered someone that was way better of a human being than this person could ever be. And Lance Twiggs lied also. And again, provable. And so again, this guy needs to be now questioned more. He should be now more like definitely a witness on that stand, but again, going through his own court processes as well, because again, just for lying alone. And then again, the people that had the most to profit from Charlie Kirk's death because of what he was sharing, especially in the last few months. And so there are people that had a lot to gain because Charlie Kirk had a lot of influence and he was really smart, really articulate. And that's the biggest danger. The people that are not violent don't call for violence, and they're able to articulate themselves well and have stronger arguments because they're more researched and put more effort into it. Okay, so anyways, I did post the link to this. It is from the Black Line Brief. Charlie Kirk's cameraman breaks his silence after 13 years, what he revealed, episode 189. And so let's see what he has to say. I did watch 40 minutes of it, but I'm like, it's over 3.5 hours long, so I might as well watch it with people online concurrently. Posted 2 days ago.
The Black Line Brief starts now.
What is up, everybody? Happy Saturday. What's up, Mitchell? How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm fired up, man. I'm doing well. Happy Saturday. Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
dude. Welcome. Yeah, it was good prepping before we went live, finding some stuff that we're going to get to share for the first time here on YouTube. Well, welcome in, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Black Line Brief. I'm your host, Matthew McKim, and tonight we have a very special guest, Mitchell Meech Manley, known on X also as Artifacts Memoir. Meech is a Phoenix-based video producer, photographer, and independent commentator covering politics, culture, and what he sees as the broader decline of American society. His story is unique because it isn't based on secondhand reporting. It's based on over a decade of firsthand experience. He began working with Turning Point USA as a teenager and spent nearly 13 years behind the camera alongside Charlie Kirk, helping capture campus debates, produce documentaries, and document the rise of one of the most influential conservative organizations in America. After leaving TPUSA in 2023, he pursued his passion for media and established himself as a successful music photographer. In 2024, he returned as part of Charlie Kirk's contracted media crew, serving as one of the 3 primary camera operators responsible for filming campus debates, major events, and rallies, including operating a broadcast camera at 5 President Trump campaign rallies. Today, Meech is writing 2 books. The first, Gambling, Gooming, and Goy Slop, The Decline of the American Male, explores the cultural, spiritual, and political forces reshaping the next generation of young men. The second is a memoir reflecting on his 13 years alongside Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. In recent months, through his long-form writing and commentary on X, Meech has begun speaking publicly about his experiences, offering firsthand insight into the institutions he once helped build and challenging narratives he believes deserves closer scrutiny. Please join me in welcoming Mitchell Meech Manley to the Black Line Brief.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Matt. I really appreciate it. Do want to clarify, it's actually just going to be one book. The title, GGG, Decline of the American Male, is kind of the overworking title, and then the subtitle is like a memoir, and then kind of just like a first reflection on what I experienced there, and again, kind of why I'm speaking out, which, yeah, thank you for the introduction. Obviously, as you said, I met Charlie Kirk when I was 15 years old, and had the unique opportunity of kind of having a hand in developing what became Turning Point USA and what it is today, which is obviously part of why I'm speaking out, because I don't feel as though, a lot of the rhetoric that is coming from the corporate institution that is Turning Point, some of the mouthpieces that are paid to speak for them, however you want to call it, reflect the original values that Charlie Kirk, instilled in the company and ultimately gave his life for. So it's been a crazy, life, crazy career. I never wanted to be in this position, in front of the camera. I have always been behind the camera for a reason, because I didn't want to do this. But, I think that in times like these are when the things that people say and then the values that they claim to uphold and believe really get put to the test, because this does feel like a very dark hour for our nation's history. And it's in times like those when your values are put to the test. And, a lot of people that I have worked closely with over the years, I thought would do the right thing, would stand for truth, would ask the tough questions, even if it was the hard thing to do, even if it cost them a job. And that's part of what's happened to me. But again, I'm doing this because it's right, not because, I have any ulterior motives, any financial interest in this. It actually has impacted me financially as well. So, that's just kind of an overarching view of kind of who I am, my story. But thanks again for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked to have you here, man. Watching you and being part of some of the X spaces and listening to you tell your story from personal experience over 13 years with Charlie from the early years, right? And then knowing a lot of these people personally and seeing what...
Okay, so I thought that Tom and I were connected, but we have similar people that he's following that follow me. And then people that are following both of us and stuff like that. So that's very interesting to me. But I know I'm familiar with the name and stuff like that. And I'm looking at some of that stuff that he's posted through, like even the Emergency Act and stuff like that. And it's all coming back to me. So yeah, I did see that. But if he's being like, again, some people were really smart through this and were able to again not break any laws and things like that, or what could be deemed as such. And so, yeah. So when I look more into it, but like from what I'm recalling now, because I'm looking at some of the clips and stuff like that, he actually was really helpful. And yeah, so you can't take that away from him, right? And so like, but I understand where Pat's coming from. Where like he got fucking totally screwed, and this is awful, right? And he's like, okay, we have someone here admitting this literally on the record, and like best-selling books, and like he's all over the interviews and stuff like that, saying, talking about his involvement, and there is truth to that, right? So like, and so, I don't think anyone should be punished for this, right? And so I don't like. So I'm hoping that people don't take a look at this as like, oh yeah, you know what, you're right. You know, Tom, more involved than we were aware. So like, let's go after him now. Like, I wouldn't want that either. Like, I don't want any of that stuff. I want everything to be dropped for Pat King, to be clear. And I don't understand why, again, like information that should have been brought up wasn't brought up in like strong arguments, medical, scientific, and government data. But again, the clown courts in Ottawa do not want to hear that. And even for the Emergency Act hearings, I submitted, I think his name was Brendan Miller or something like that. But like, I literally reached out to their team and they confirmed they received all my information, and I even gave them like that's all the information. So much information that I've shared again for years. And all I gave was medical, scientific, and government data. No memes, none of that bullshit, like nothing from CTV or like a media outlet. It was all based on that. And yeah, and looking through that, I did the same thing for Helen Bruce's lawyer. And you probably have all of this stuff, but like, here you go in case you need more. And like, okay, they're not even going to look at this. Not even the VAERS? No. Okay. Anyway. Okay, back on to Charlie Kirk. I heard of this guy before, his cameraman. And apparently he liked being behind the lens and not out in public. So like, that made it interesting as well. But some of the things he says is a little extreme. But anyway, from the 40 minutes I've watched so far.
Turning point was while Charlie was still alive, the evolution of him, especially in the last few years, like from 2023 to 2025, and then watching what they've done to TPUSA in the wake of his assassination since September 10th. I'm so glad that people like you, like we had Aubrey Lee.
Oh, as soon as I go on, the internet craps out. So
each come out, and then she kind of went through the ringer, you know, and I can imagine why she's kind of been a little bit more quiet since then. But I'm glad that there's good people that are willing to take the risk and come out and speak the truth, you know?
No, it has to be done, I think. And, you know, it's one of those things that if more good people were willing to stand in times like these and speak the things that I know that they're feeling inside, then we wouldn't have the media machine attacking people such as Aubrey and, you know, potentially myself. And I haven't really faced too much scrutiny yet. I've had a couple instances of it, but it's one of those things that also for me, I am aware of, I'm expectant of, right? We are in a political world, we're in a political society, so we should expect these sorts of things. But also, I feel as though I'm standing on the side of truth, on the side of Christ, and these people aren't. And when you do that, it's very easy. You know, at first I kind of posted the things that I said, and I was kind of worried. I was like, dang, do I have, you know, is there anything else I have to say? Do I have anything else to add to the conversation? And I found that the more that these people lie, the more I'm able to just kind of respond to them from the point of truth. And you know, it sounds crazy, but the more that people lie, the easier it gets to kind of tear those lies down. And I think we're seeing that kind of take place right now.
Yeah, and I think too, watching, like once you start telling a lie, then you have to tell more lies to cover that lie up. And then it just becomes so intricate and difficult, especially with these idiots that are doing it. They slip up so much. And then it's great to have people that actually can speak about the real experience of being there, knowing that they're lying. And there's people like Matthew Tuccerone, who also is really honing in on Tyler Boyer, which is someone you've honed in on as well. And I agree when you really look into who Tyler Boyer is, his family, Terrell Farnsworth, Arizona, LDS, the political connections that those families have in Arizona, right? He was being investigated, prosecuted, and then he got a pardon, campaign finance issues. And then now we have finance issues within Turning Point. And you're like, oh, and who was there? Oh, that was Tyler. And who's here? Oh, it's Tyler. Oh, okay. I really think that as we pull on that thread, we're going to get to more of the bottom of this, I think.
Yeah, I think that you're 100% right. It's why I have been, you know, kind of applying as much pressure as I have. It's why his statements were the ones that made me speak out to begin with, right? I had for the last 9 months, 10 months, kept my head in the sand, so to speak, stayed off Twitter because I was upset. I was frustrated. Deep down inside, I knew what had happened, which I believe we've kind of begin to pull the truth and the mask off of, if you will, and reveal the truth on that, which is that this was more than likely a very deep state conspiracy, potentially working with those aligned with the nation state of Israel, to silence a man who was being very openly critical of our nation's alignment with them, our nation's partnership with them. And I think that the more that people such as Tyler Boyer run from accountability, run from basic questions, right? And that's all it was for me. Was he put out a tweet around the time of the Women's Leadership Summit that they just had last month, and it was a very watered down kind of, many weren't around at the start of Turning Point, and this is what it was about. And I kind of just replied, and I was like, Tyler, this, like, yes, this is part of it, but you're missing the root. Like what made Charlie Charlie? You're missing everything, really. And I threw in a clip of Charlie as well, and that's again something I'm trying to do. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this because I watched someone I considered a very close friend and mentor and ally to like get murdered in broad daylight, and the people who were right there alongside him saying we need to ask questions all the time, we have to hold the government accountable, specifically in the instance of JFK, are now doing a complete 180 and not doing that. So for me, I genuinely am coming at this from a place of good faith and just wanting to get to the root of it. And it seems that those who have benefited the most in the wake of Charlie's unfortunate demise are the ones also now telling us to not ask questions, to trust the government, to just trust the evidence, when again, for years these were the same people who were calling themselves thought criminals, who were covering the Kenosha trial, backing Kyle Rittenhouse, while the media machine came after him and labeled him guilty before he even faced a jury. And I think that the parallels there are hypocritical. And the whole time all we see is Tyler Boyer working in Turning Point Action, pushing people to the next election, while we're not even holding this administration accountable. Right. That's the question I have for Tyler, is why would anyone my age in this generation, who's watched what has just taken place, who's watched what the administration did to Charlie, and in the wake of his death, why would I ever vote Republican again? When all they do is betray us the minute they get power. And the one person who was supposed to be the one holding them accountable, the one person who trusted them the most to get them into office. That's why we campaigned for you guys as hard as we did. That's why we went to 40 campuses together, where you guys were supposed to not go to a new war. You guys were supposed to give us the truth on the Epstein files. You guys were supposed to do mass deportations. You guys were supposed to do a lot of things that in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, you're not doing. Well, why are you not doing that? Right? I don't care really about the what. I am much more of a why. I just keep asking questions. I never shut up, Matt. I will never stop asking questions. Charlie taught me to do that from 15 years old, right? So I get to the why, and I think we're beginning to uncover a larger part of that why, right? And I think many people know what that why is. They're just afraid to say it out loud because they saw what happened to Charlie. They've seen what happened to people like me. This media machine is vicious. It does not want the truth to get out there. But as we get Christians know, the truth will set us free, and the truth will inevitably be revealed. And I think we are slowly getting there. And the clip that we found, just a couple minutes ago when we were kind of talking, I think is a large part of that truth.
Yeah, and we're going to play it here in a minute. I've said this a couple times, Turning Point and like Real America's Voice, the Charlie Kirk show, like that whole apparatus is the new Fox News.
Well, I think that it's actually going to be much larger than that. And I think that if we look at the financial backings of it, we look at also the foreign interest backing. I brought this up yesterday when I was speaking with Constitution. Salem Media is working with Brad Parscale, who's a registered foreign agent. And what foreign country are they working for? The nation state of Israel, right? And so, as Charlie said in that clip in 2023, you can label someone as Elon Musk an anti-Semite. You could label Charlie Kirk an anti-Semite. You can, try and kill him for what he was saying. And as we now know from Blake Neff, he had confirmed that he was, in fact, leaving the Israel lobby. That was going to happen. You can label me an anti-Semite if you want. Your labels mean nothing to me when you work for Satan. And again, I stand for Christ. I know what you did to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So these actions do not surprise me. And that's the thing I want Christians to hear, is that, guys, we have to be realists with this. We are in a spiritual war. Politics is the front that they are using to wage the spiritual war on good-hearted Christians. There are millions of Christians who are deceived, that are sitting in churches every Sunday, that push Zionism ultimately, which at the end of the day worships the same death cult that crucified our Lord and Savior Jesus. Yeah. And that's why I keep saying the time for spiritual discernment is now. We have to be thinking critically. We have to be using the very complex brains that God gave us. We cannot be letting these people who get paid to lie to us lie and get away with it and reshape our society. This is the hour of crisis, as far as I've seen it. I'm 27 years old, but like, I don't know. I feel like this trial and everything that has ensued from Charlie's assassination, the chaos, is what the deep state is using to install this new world order that we now know is 3.5 years out, 2030, right? Like, everyone forgets that. Everyone was panicking about it back in 2020. Now we're 6 years in, 6.5, right? And 2030 is right around the corner. Yeah. You guys think that the intelligence agencies and everyone, the World Economic Forum, all these people just stopped advancing that because you forgot about it? No, in fact, they're very happy you forgot about it. They're also using this moment to distract you from a lot of that. And they're ushering in things under your noses that you guys don't realize is happening, while you're focused on the 80 different distractions that Paramount Tactical and all the rest are feeding you, right? This is an information war. This is a disinformation war. We are in the middle of it. We've been in the middle of it for years. Charlie was the leading voice in that fight, and they silenced him. And I'm not going to sit here and let them lie and turn him in to a prop for this illegitimate establishment. I refuse to do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I followed Charlie, for years, and I believed what he believed about Trump, right? I knew that
we all did. We all did.
Yeah. And like him being an honest, good, a man of integrity, someone to look up to, not Trump, Charlie.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
And that he knew JD and Trump personally, and that there's no way Charlie would have got out there and told us that we can, to vote for them and to believe in them, unless he believed it himself. He wasn't lying to us. He truly believed that JD and Trump were going to follow through on all their promises. And I was saying this last night, that if Charlie was alive, they had to do September 10th. It had to be then, because if he was alive for Venezuela, if he was alive for no epi file release, and if he was alive for the actual war, not just the freaking Midnight Hammer war, the real war, the regime change war, which him and all of his, guys on Thought Crime were saying, they're like, if they try to talk us into a regime change war, we got a problem. There's a big issue there. If Charlie would have been alive for that, and we would have had Candace, Megan, Tucker, Charlie all going at the same time, like it would have been so bad. It would have been so bad for them.
No, this was a warning to everyone in that circle. It was a warning to Megyn Kelly. It was a warning to Jack Posobiec. It was a warning to all of these people. Stop.
Yep.
Look what we can do to you. Right? Yep. You want to not get in line now that we're in power? Look what we will do to you. And again, it goes back to what Charlie said time and time again in relation to Butler, right? Look what they want. This goes back to, he trusted them to not kowtow and bend the knee, right? He trusted this deep state he trusted this administration to be able to actually combat this deep state. I don't know if it's possible at this point. I truly question that. That brings me to a larger point we might get to later, but like, yes, and I think you see it most in the Tucker Carlson interview he did, a couple weeks before. That he goes on the record and says how much he trusts Kash Patel, how much he trusts Pam Bondi, how much he trusts everyone to clean house, basically, to give us this new country that we were promised, right? Which we're now learning was a pipe dream, to get us here, to get us to this point of division and chaos that they can just usher in whatever they want without any of us noticing, right? And then by then it'll be too late. By then you won't have the same freedoms you had 10 years ago. It goes back to the Tim Dillon clip that I love that he did a couple months back. Like it is so apparent to me, and yet it is so effective at the same time, because these people are legendary deceivers, right? They are demons, in my opinion. Like I said, we are in a spiritual war. And so people say all the time, to try and combat my viewpoint, Charlie Kirk was such an intelligent man. By attacking Erica, you are, and those in his circle, you are saying that he wasn't smart enough to see their character. And I think it's one of those things where, no, I think if we look at what happened to the entire American population, we all were deceived. Charlie himself, and if you look at history, it's very naive to think that the greatest men throughout history, the smartest men, have never been deceived, in spite of their intelligence, in spite of how effective they are. Right? That is at the core of all historic struggles, is betrayal and mutinies and Julius Caesar. Like just look at Julius Caesar, for example. Right? It's Julius Caesar was one of the most effective people. They still got him. Right? And so I think that, for everyone using that as a defense, again, it's disinformation. We're in a disinformation war, and I would not be doing what I'm doing if I didn't think that this moment in our nation's history is important. I think that, in 1775, there was a shot heard around the world, and it led to the foundation of this nation that has been an experiment up until this point, and it still is. It's a test, right? And there's a sense in which the intelligence agencies are always testing us, and I think that this is a litmus test in many ways for what we will tolerate as people. But in 1775 we had that, and then in 2025 we had a shot, if you want to call it that was seen around the world, and instantly, mind you. We didn't have newspaper. We didn't need newspapers. We have cell phones now. And so, 1776, it's now 2026, 250 years. I think that God is giving us a time to pause and reflect. I think that as the government and everyone who is afraid of them is speaking and saying China is our enemy, communism is our enemy, when Charlie Kirk, the man that just got brutally executed in broad daylight in public, was 3 months before his death saying the imminent threat to our nation is the deep
state. But in Canada, though, I'm going to reiterate, China is a huge threat, and also the reason why Mark Carney got elected to begin with. And if people want to sue me for that, then they're going to have to go to the courts and they're going to have to prove, right? Like they're going to have to give all that information, financials, emails, communication and meetings with who, all of these things.
State is this apparatus that creates events of chaos and stages, national trauma events such as Butler, right? To push whatever it is. This is so complex that it is so difficult to tear down, and they use force to intimidate and fear to keep people from getting to the truth. Well, Matt, fear is not from our Lord. Like it's not. And that's why I'm speaking up now, because for so long I was afraid, and I finally realized fear is not from our Lord. And, this earth is temporal. And I hope that these people are having as much fun as they want here, because I do genuinely think that they will be judged for this, their actions here in the next life. But, that it's just insane to me where we're at. And I truly hope that people stop focusing on the smaller issues and truly kind of pay attention to what part of the timeline they're in, because it does seem to be escalating very quickly to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much I want to say about that. So I got to find a way to weave it so that I don't miss any parts. I was always drawn to like the World War II, but then in the wake of World War II, right, when the OSS became like the CIA, Operation Paperclip, and the scientists that we brought over. But then I'm really fascinated with JFK. And what you see is the institutions and the power structures that he was running up against, that ultimately, I believe, are responsible for his assassination, are one in the same that Charlie was running up against. When you talk about here in the United States, the intel agencies. So he said, JFK was like, I'm going to break him apart and scatter him to the wind, right? Charlie said on Tucker, this is one of, if not the biggest issue here for us right now. Okay. And then talking about Israel, JFK was not wanting them to have a nuclear program. He was going to, do inspections, making them register as foreign agents. They weren't having that. And then obviously after he got assassinated, LBJ undid all that, right? Similarly, Charlie taking on Israel, I mean, not in the way that I think some people are making it out to be. Obviously, I think that biblically he still believed that there was some part of us as Christians that should support true Jewish people, right? Not like the Likud party, extreme neocon versions of the, Israel political government, right? because he did have an affinity for Israel, right? And the birthplace of Jesus, and like where the Bible was, where it happened, but definitely was asking the right questions about their involvement here, their control and their purchasing of our politicians, and getting us to signing us up for foreign wars where we lose thousands and thousands of servicemen and women, and they don't, where they lie to us and say that we have weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and there's nothing. And then they're like, oh, we're, since 1996, Bibi's like, yeah, they're just 2 weeks away from a nuclear bomb. And then he just repeats that. Have you seen that montage of him? Like every time he said it for 30 years.
Yeah.
And then we bomb him in Midnight Hammer, and they're like,
I've
success.
shared that. Yeah, Netanyahu is a criminal. And I totally agree with that. The Likud party are extremists at this point. I've talked about Smutrick and Ben Gavir, etc. What they've shared, what they've posted online for the world to see and hear. And even with the JFK assassination, just because LBJ didn't take the shot, right, doesn't mean that he was not involved. But again, more proof is needed in this. We need proof. Because, I wouldn't put it past these people at all, because of what they've done in the past, with with Susanna. Actually, I might share that. I'm all over the place. Okay, let me see here. Who did I share that with? Yeah, I'll have to look into that more.
Yes, we did
Well,
it.
and I want to point out something about Midnight Hammer, because it is something that people use to discredit Charlie, and it's that, well, Charlie blindly trusted President Trump when we bombed, Iran in 2020 or 2025 and destroyed their nuclear. Well, that's the thing, right? And it still exists on the White House. They put out a statement that said we totally destroyed their nuclear program.
Yep.
So, okay, I watched Charlie's stream that night. He was very much like, this is an escalation. We didn't vote for this. We're going to trust the president's judgment on this, and we need to be careful. Like we need to be careful. This may have been necessary, but we're going to see what happens after. We're going to trust his intelligence. And then they told us that they destroyed the nuclear facilities.
Mhm.
So until Charlie died, he was under the impression that there wasn't really a need for a war in Iran. And then if you go back, a couple months prior, you see that 16-minute video that I also have on my profile, which is Charlie just laying out why we do not need another war, why we shouldn't go to war in Iran. He calls Lindsey Graham pathologically insane. And now we have, the people in his studio, Blake Neff, writing puff pieces on Lindsey Graham after his
Isn't
death.
that crazy?
It's insane. And that gets me to my deeper point, which I don't think anyone's talking about, which is that this feels like a managed decline of the biggest threat to the deep state by the deep state itself. I think that many of these people are operating.
Okay, so even with Operation Susanna, so widely known as the Lavon Affair, I've done videos on this, posted this on LinkedIn and stuff as well. A failed 1954 Israeli false flag plot in Egypt. Israel military intelligence recruited a sleeper cell of Egyptian Jews to bomb British and American civilian targets like cinemas and libraries, so civilians. The goal was to frame local factions like the Muslim Brotherhood, just like they did with 9/11, destroying Western trust in the Egyptian government and forcing the British to keep troops at the Suez Canal. The operation ultimately failed when a bomb exploded prematurely in an operative's pocket in Alexandria, leading to the swift capture of the cell by Egyptian authorities. The catastrophic intelligence blunder sparked a massive political crisis in Israel over who ordered the attack. And there's more, but again, I've done videos on that. It's just that I mentioned it, so I thought it was important to talk about it.
Intentionally, because their statements are so blatantly not in line with the statements Charlie was making right before his death that it seems like they're walking it back. And of course, right, if you think about intelligence agencies and how they operate, they're always focused on who? The next generation. Because once your brain gets past a certain point, it's no longer malleable. I'm very blessed to have been able to have spent my entire young adult life around Charlie Kirk. So my brain operates a little bit differently than the average American. But that's not the case for many people. And Charlie Kirk and his organization was at a point where he was going to a college campus and pulling crowds of 1,000 to 3,000 students.
Yep.
And that's the reason we got the administration we did. That's the reason we got the mandate that we did.
Yep.
And That's also why the intelligence agencies that have been so focused on propping up this same institution that began, in my opinion, after the reconstruction of Germany and the foundation of the nation state of Israel, right around the time of the end of World War II as well. You said you're a history guy. It's going to be part of my book, but that's what this is all about. This is so much not about the left or trannies or anything like that, right? This is so much more a deeper issue, a philosophical, fundamental, nation-breaking issue that they don't want us talking about, and that's the reason why. Because for the last, I don't know, at least 40 years, our nation has been controlled and subverted by these people who don't want us talking about the exact things that I am right now.
100%. And what's crazy is too, like, so Jack Posobiec, Blake Neff, Andrew Colvett, Tyler Boyer, they were on Thought Crime in July.
Oh, I know. I posted that video. Like, I think I was the one who put that up first.
We played it here. I don't know, a month or a couple weeks ago.
And that's where they call Zelensky a tranny, I think, right? It's just like that. These are the type of people that are now labeling myself, Candace Owens, who was one of Charlie's very early friends, conspiracy theorists for questioning our government. When again, if you look at the Media Matters clip I played, Charlie Kirk wasn't even the biggest voice saying these things. Elon Musk was agreeing these things back in 2023. But now, I just got censored 2 days ago on Twitter for saying the same thing that Charlie Kirk said 2 days before he died, which is that the Jews run the media. So,
wait, what happened on X? You got censored?
I put out a tweet a couple days ago, or a couple weeks back, that was like, the Jews run the media, and they have enough money to put whoever they want into office. So, clearly this, and I said that, and it got struck by X as inciting violence. So how can Elon Musk 3 years ago agree with Charlie Kirk that Jewish groups are inciting violence against whites, but now I get on X and say the same thing that Charlie Kirk said a couple days before his death to Ben Shapiro, and now I'm getting silenced on X, and you expect me to sit here and listen to you when you tell me this is a lone shooter narrative? This isn't a larger conspiracy theory to silence voices that are speaking about anti-Semitism and these issues articulately and in a way that does not match your label of me being whatever you want to try and throw my way. It doesn't add up, because listen to the words I'm saying. I'm not hateful. I'm not anything. I am very much rooted in reality. I'm intellectual. I'm smart. I spent 13 years working for Charlie Kirk, so I'm not the enemy of the state you're going to try to label me as. Like, neither is Tucker Carlson, neither is Candace Owens, neither is Joe Kent. None of these people are. That's why Joe Kent and I are talking, because like this is it is not political anymore. They're using politics to divide us, as they always have. The issue is,
I posted this a while ago, but I'm going to post again because it's about the JFK assassination. And I posted this, God, when? 69 weeks ago on here, but it's from my channel on Top 189 from however when that was. And again, this is just a theory, right? And I've done a lot of videos on this. I've given even more footage, more assessments, more witness accounts, all of these things put together. And people that wrote books about this as well. And so this is just one.
The president's car made the turn onto Houston. Government agents who had sworn an oath to uphold their country's democratic principles waited alongside mafia killers to murder their own commander-in-chief. One of the men they were working for, Sam Giancana, said this proved that in reality there was no such thing as white hats and black hats. That notion, he said, was just a sham, a sap stickling to.
The one thing I recognized was there are no black hats and there are no white hats. They all conduct themselves the exact same. And very good evidence of that is that the CIA would hire two so-called mafia men, Sam Giancana and John Roselli, to assassinate Fidel Castro. If there's such a difference, you're not supposed to have anything to do with each other. But in essence, the remark is really they're all in bed together. They all do business together.
It was now that Abraham Zapruder pressed the trigger on his 8mm cine camera. Ever since that moment, the world has accepted that what he recorded was the definitive account of what really happened. What people must appreciate is that what they have just seen is not at all what really happened. Had you actually been there on the day, this is what you would have seen. Doesn't that look a great deal more suspicious? So just exactly what did happen during the 10 seconds that Bruder was filmed. To begin with, Dulles, Lansdale, and Atlee Phillips had tried to get over the problem of volley fire, blowing the president's head clean off by firing in 4 stages. Stage 1 was meant to be a single shot by Charles Nicoletti into the back of Kennedy's head from the Daltex building some 40 yards behind. Had he succeeded, the plotters would have had the single assassin with 1 bullet story they wanted. But in his excitement, the mafia assassin squeezed the trigger too soon. His bullet ricocheted off the hard chrome sill of the limo's back seat, struck the curb beneath the overpass, sending up a sharp piece of concrete which scratched James Tague's face. Watch again. We clearly see how this little girl stops running, and her gaze looks directly at where the shot originated and not up at the 6th floor of the depository. It was now that Umbrella Man took over. Standing right at the curbside, it was his job, should the first shot miss, to give a clear visual signal. Target is not injured. The intelligence chiefs knew that if this situation occurred, Kennedy would now be moving rapidly away from the first sniper. They knew the only way to make sure of getting him was to fusillade the car. So a moment later, 2 rifles tried to fire from directly in front at exactly the same time, to deceive witnesses into thinking there was only 1 shot.
You said you'd kill President Kennedy. At the same time, I said I had killed the judge. I said I had killed Kennedy. Well, do you believe Lee Harvey Oswald will kill President Kennedy? We'll get back to that. Alone, without any aid from a rogue agency of the U.S. government, or at least a portion of that agency. I believe you're very naive if you did.
Harrelson's bullet hit JFK in the throat, and another gunman, hiding in a culvert 50 yards away up in the embankment of the overpass, made the hole in the windscreen, which was later seen by Dr. Evalier Glanges.
Presidential limousine was there. Had been standing there for some time, just watching.
Oh, I really, from my, to give Finn, hi Don, I might not be here long, just wanted to say hi and I appreciate your efforts.
But it was very clear. It was a through and through bullet hole through the windshield of the car, from the front to the back.
As Kennedy emerges from behind the road sign, his distress is clear, while Governor Connolly remains composed. This single frame of the Zapruder film makes nonsense of the single bullet theory, because it's quite clear both men have not been struck at the same time. Kennedy has now passed through 2 layers of fire, and has not been hit in the head. To cover this eventuality, the assassins were given a simple instruction: fusillade the car with everything. So that in the next few moments, the 5 remaining riflemen fired, causing the Secret Service agent riding in the front passenger seat, Roy Kellerman, to report a feeling like a jet sonic boom as the hail of bullets whistled into the car. It is now more than 3 seconds after Kennedy is hit in the throat that Frank Sturgis misses his target altogether and blows out 5 inches of Governor Connolly's ribs, compressing his lungs and puffing his cheeks, with a bullet which quite clearly struck at far too steep an angle that come from the other end of the depository. In almost the same instant, Eladio Del Valle hit the governor in the wrist, Weatherford fired into his thigh, and Nicoletti's second shot hit the chrome frame of the window. A moment later, the best marksman, Malcolm Wallace, shot Kennedy in his upper back, the bullet strike witnessed and recorded by all the Secret Service men in the following car. Jackie Kennedy starts looking concerned, and yet even now there are no obvious signs that her husband held upright by his back brace.
I was on mute. I've thrown out the theory as well with a driver, also possibly being the shooter because of his movement when it happens, etc. And so look at my videos on that as well. But this is very interesting.
Has been shot twice. The assassins have so far failed to hit him in the head, and it is now that they play the ace up their sleeve. Here we can finally answer the riddle of where on an empty street you can hide a man with a rifle, how he can manage to shoot a man speeding past him in a limousine. The answer is that he can't. That is why the driver, William Brewer, looked around twice to see whether Kennedy had been hit in the head, and when he saw he hadn't, as dozens of witnesses, including police officers, confirmed, he stopped the car completely.
His orders was to slow down when they arrested the guys.
This is really the driver of the presidential limousine.
Yeah.
His order.
Presidential limousine slowed down almost to stop.
It is now that most people have been led to believe that Kennedy was shot in the head by Charles Boyd Harrelson, the sniper standing on the grassy knoll. This is not true. Because if we look at the angle of elevation of a shot from that area, it's obvious that a shot originating from above and right would have pushed Kennedy's head down and left, whereas it's quite clear that his head is knocked upwards and to the left by the impact. So where did that bullet come from? Incredibly, the answer has lain
Up and to the left, not back and to the left.
hidden in the most well-known and iconic image from the assassination of the motorcycle policeman heaving his bike onto its stand. Look now as we freeze frame it here. This is the moment when the whole world was looking up the hill toward the man who had fired from the grassy knoll. But that is not where the police officer is looking. He is looking down into the storm drain, because that is where that shot and the stationary car came from. The shot which all of the well-known assassination witnesses described as coming from behind the picket fence missed completely and ripped up the grass at Jean Hill's feet. She did not even notice, but we know this is true because the FBI told her so. So who were the men who fired unseen from the storm drains on Elm Street? One thing we know is that they were very young and had to be brought into the conspiracy because they had to crawl into a filthy, smelly sewer, something which the older, experienced mafia assassins would never have dreamed of doing. They were basically two kids looking for excitement. The first was Curtis Laverne Crayford, also known as Larry Crayford. Formerly CIA, he had worked for Ruby at the Carousel Club, and Ruby had told everyone his name was Lee Harvey Oswald until Lee Harvey Oswald walked in. But while above ground, the world was taking pictures, running and screaming, trying to figure out what had happened. The other young man was stumbling along 400 yards of a reeking, fetid Dallas sewer pipe to emerge from this culvert. And he was not Lee Harvey Oswald, or Roscoe White, or J.D. Tippett, nor even a Cuban or Russian communist. His name was Jack Allen Lawrence. And we know that after stumbling up this bank, he turned up 15 minutes later at the Lincoln Mercury car showroom, where he'd obtained a job with false references, pale, sweating, and, on a hot, sunny day in Dallas, covered in mud. Telling his co-workers, Albert Bogart and Robert Tater, he had been ill that morning, he stumbled into the men's room and threw up, while they, feeling his behavior was suspicious, called the police, who made a record of the entire incident. Back at the plaza,
making a record of it, right? So like even with Tyler Robinson, that night made a record of that interaction and a partial plate analysis.
The radio men coordinating the gunfire can be seen from their behavior.
Doesn't mean that there wasn't other people involved at other levels, but as the shooter, I still think that he's the shooter, and I still think he should go to jail for it. Same as these guys, if they were actually the ones that were involved in the murder of JFK, straight to jail. They don't get off with crimes just because it was dictated from like the highest levels of government, including like the CIA and people that were like right next to the president, right? LBJ and the Dulles brothers and others as well were involved in this, or knew about it and wanted it to happen.
These two, Orlando Bosch and the Umbrella Man, have a seat while everyone else runs around them. Bosch makes a report that the hit was successful, then casually walks away. Just like the chief radio coordinator, Jim Hicks, with the radios clearly visible in their back pockets. A few yards away, the CIA's cleanup squad began working to remove all evidence useful to a forensic team. Deputy Sheriff Buddy Wolfers is here seen finding the bullet which struck in the grass near the manhole cover. He hands it on to one of the fake FBI men, who pockets it. While this is going on, Rogers, Harrelson, and E. Howard Hunt are discovered hiding in the boxcars of the train which they hoped would be their getaway vehicle, until it's prevented from moving by railway dispatcher and key witness Lee Bowers. They are photographed repeatedly as they are marched to the Dallas courthouse. And we can clearly see in this picture the radio receiver Hunt is wearing in his right ear, which is identical to the receivers worn by those Dallas police officers who were part of the plot. As they walk, they are overseen by Colonel Ed Lansdale, who secures their release and begins to give the press the cover story that this man.
So even with the security detail that I saw on the ground, these are the types of people when I talk about, even with January 6th and the Freedom Convoy, this is blue on blue. And I don't think that they had any previous involvement, at least the people that I have looked at. When you look at the people that coordinate events and stuff like that, yeah, you can look more into them, like this Tyler guy, etc. People that have involvement, again, with propaganda operations and working with criminals from, even Israel, like Netanyahu, etc., who is a criminal. And I don't know if they get into this, but even with Tippett, and the possibility that JFK's body is not in Arlington Cemetery, that it's actually Tippett's, and I think it was Chicago Police Department. But again, I've done so many videos on this as well. So again, I'm not open to conspiracy theories, but I focus on facts.
This major suspect.
And even with this, the Zapruder films, there is missing footage from within.
And then acting alone, he shot the president from behind. The truth, as we now know, is that 8 separate snipers, firing 16 shots in 4 separate stages, had tried to make certain of killing the president by hitting him in the head and had failed abysmally. The shooting on the day had been nothing to write home about. A third of all the shots had missed the car completely. Had it not been for the ruse of bribing the driver to brake at a point painted on the curbside, which is still visible, so that Jack Lawrence could shoot Kennedy in the head from just 15 feet away, the president might have survived.
Yeah. And because again, no event is ever going to be the same. So people can't look at this and apply everything with the JFK assassination, which again happened many years ago, and November 22nd, 1963, and apply that to this. Because even out of sheer incompetence, right, and making it look like that. I'm talking about deliberate incompetence at the higher levels and stuff like that. And even decisions being made, right? Why was Trump allowed on that stage? Why was Charlie Kirk allowed on that stage when even like in the days leading up to that event, again, there were threats against his life. If it wasn't going to be properly secured with way more assets. Okay. And yeah, there's just so much. So why?
So now we must address the question, why does the Zapruder film not show this very obvious setup of the limousine stopping for the headshot? The answer, of course, is that it has been tampered with.
Even with the Butler assassination attempt, again, even with that, like to me, it looks like sheer deliberate incompetence and a refusal to act when you're supposed to. Again, I can't even believe that like they didn't see him on the roof and all these things and the warnings that like in advance, like just so many things, like no drones, like just so much, and the fact that why did they put him on that stage? And then again, even with that cameraman that has been involved with like major photo shoots, right, of significance that involve presidents, right? So even with Clinton, when that shoe was thrown at him, at like a closed meeting or whatever. Maybe not a close, but like, yeah, like it was a small, like a little speaking engagement and the throne show. He was there. He was the only one that was able to get that footage. And then even with Bush during 9/11, same thing. So why is this guy there during significant events, right, when others are not, right? Like, is he always just at the right place at the right time? I don't know. And up front and center and all the, so I don't know.
In the 1960s,
and people
Hollywood special effects teams had developed techniques for masking off segments of film frames to disguise the true movement of figures within the picture. In the Zapruder film, frames have been removed in order to fake a continuous flow in motion, so that we don't see the very obvious setup which dozens of witnesses reported. If you look now at the top of the frame, the doctrine of the film becomes perfectly obvious in the way in which the figures are blurred and yet the shadows are sharp, which is impossible. This CIA tampering with the evidence becomes even clearer when the Zapruder film is run next to the Orville Nix film taken from the other side. It's easy to see from the way the motive...
Yeah, I don't know if I had already shared that because it's a long video. Okay, so this is must watch. JFK to 9/11. Everything is a rich man's trick. And it was good. And there's so much more I can say about it. Like I have done like assessments on it, reports. I've sent it to people. Even Senator... was it Ron Johnson? I forget who it was, but like he was on Redacted and he was talking about reopening 9/11. And I'm like, man, no, I got stuff for you. So I gave him a lot of that stuff and then more. Yeah, my JFK files. With the names and everything. Yeah, so Lyndon B. Johnson, Vice President, Alan Dulles, former CIA Director, George H.W. Bush, future President and CIA connections, anti-Castro Cubans, CIA plants. David Rockefeller, business magnate, Rockefeller family. Judy Baker talks about, oh yeah, and Mark Lane, by the way, has talked about this stuff as well. So Judy Baker, Lee Harvey Oswald as being a CIA operative and patsy. David Atlee Phillips, CIA officer. Clay Shaw, CIA-linked businessman. Carlos Marcello, mafia boss. Jack Ruby, Rubenstein, by the way, Oswald's killer. And there's more. Yeah, so even with the exit wound, and that witness accounts from the doctors and the autopsy questions and things like that, and the military taking over, and just really weird. So yeah, I definitely don't think we're getting the whole truth about the Charlie Kirk assassination. But Tyler Robinson still needs to go to jail, and so does Lance Twiggs.
Is the masks are off. The demons are out on stage, and they are here to keep their power. It is time for Christians to get involved. I'm serious. Like I don't want. We can't do this alone. We can't. We will lose this country. It will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I had this thought and I lost it. And I was like trying to get it back. What we were talking about at the beginning of that statement of yours.
I know. I'm sorry. We keep going down tangents.
No. You're good. You're good. It'll come back to me at some point. It always does. Why don't we hop into the clip that you found? Oh, yeah, I remember now. I knew it. Yes, I got it. Okay. So Elon Musk was being labeled an anti-Semite. Charlie retweets him and actually talks about it on his show. Do you know what happened to Elon after, in order to get him not being labeled an anti-Semite anymore? Do you know what he had to do?
Well, I'm sure it's the same thing that happened to Kanye West when they labeled him an anti-Semite, which is he had to go meet with a very specific council of a, very specific religious group that just so happened to all be Jewish and make some very private public apologies, I'm sure, like a combination of the two. I don't know what happened to Elon, but maybe.
Guess who accompanied him to Israel and on his purple.
I remember this now. I remember he was giving the tour. That's right. That's right. He was. Yeah. And then guess who Charlie Kirk's security called on the way to the hospital?
Ben Shapiro. Yeah.
Yep. So again, you expect me to not notice these connections here, guys? You are the ones who are liars and conspiracy theorists, because the theory that you are presenting is a lie and it's not true.
Yeah.
A 20-year-old male does not hate Charlie Kirk enough to go ruin his life for the rest of his life like that. I'm sorry. It's just that it just is so unfathomable to me. But if you look at the threat that Charlie Kirk posed to the deep state in the way that I have just presented and continue presenting, that is the most believable motive, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And Charlie said himself on the 10X conference with Grant Cardone that he wasn't afraid of any purple-haired jihadist leftists. He said that the people that concerned him the most were people on his inner circle, people that were close to him, people that deceived him, betrayed him, lied to him, or told him he couldn't or shouldn't do something or wouldn't amount to anything. He said that himself. And furthermore, in Lance Twiggs' own interview, he said that Tyler Robinson never even brought up Charlie's name. Never talked about transgender ideology. Never. It never came up. Lance Twiggs himself said that the only thing that Tyler spoke...
a lie, though. So look at Turkey Tom's videos. Megyn Kelly posted and stuff like that as well. So again, this is where there's losing some credibility if they're not going to look more into this, at least, because there is stuff out there.
Him about was some political legislation things that were either being voted or not being voted in, because I guess on the way to work, Tyler would ride in this work van with his co-workers, and they would listen to some political radio show, but that he was supposedly radicalized to the degree that he planned this assassination in a week.
Oh, every time I'm on it goes off.
And a half or 2 weeks, and pulled off the assassination of a century or our lifetime, and then never ever brought anything up to his boyfriend he's living with. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Never said Charlie's name.
Well, and what also doesn't make sense is now that we've learned that the FBI had prior knowledge, thanks to Andrew Colvette, they sent allegedly threatening texts and TikToks and such to the FBI beforehand, before the shooting happened. It's what Blake Neff said the other night ago. So if that's the case, then why? I just have questions why weren't protective measures taken, preventative measures. And then if they weren't taken, right, if Andrew Colvett knew that they weren't taken, why did he even let Charlie still go out to the tent if they had threats already? Right.
Yep.
So those two things kind of, again, indicated a deep state involvement to me that they're trying to get us all to ignore and not think about and not pay attention to. Again, I've raised these questions publicly to almost all the people we're talking about. While they're happy to, publicly try and roast other people, all I get is blocked and ignored. So I think there's kind of a reason there as well. And so it is just insane to me that these people, I think they overplayed their hand too, in a sense. It's like, how are you going to, try to take out the guy who told us all to question our government relentlessly? Just like, I don't know. But I want to get back to your point, which is, the threat aspect. Like, if Charlie Kirk was afraid of leftists, murdering him in public, I don't think he would be going to a college campus and letting a crowd of like 3,000 people come 10 feet in front of him. I'll be honest with you, as someone who toured with him, that was my biggest fear, was somebody coming up point blank, having something concealed and just bang. Like, because that's logically the easiest thing. Like, you know what I mean? It just, and as someone who sat with my back turned to the crowd and facing Charlie, I would be, right there. If he misses, God forbid, it's just things you think about when you're in this environment every day.
For sure.
And I remember there was an event that kind of we had to tear down. I think I posted a clip from it actually the other day, kind of like an unedited minute and a half of just Charlie in his element on these tours. Because it was something that I don't think a lot of people understand. Like the energy that he brought, the change that he was making in young people's lives. Because again, this was more than politics. This was spiritual. He was bringing people to Christ and getting people to think critically and logically about the world that they're in, to break out from the brainwashing. His tour was called "You're Being Brainwashed." Like that, again, and look at what they're trying to do to us now with this tour. They are trying to brainwash you. I promise you that's what's happening. Like, that is what's happening. This is a psyop on a national level that is there are multiple layers to it. It's being used. They are using it and doing it in many different ways. But, Charlie Kirk, if he was afraid of leftists, wouldn't go tour on college campuses in the way that he did. He just wouldn't. And they would have a much higher security apparatus if that was the case. And that wasn't the case. The guys that toured with him, the security guys, I know a lot of them. I worked very closely, like, alongside them, right? As far as I was concerned, I thought they all would take a bullet for Charlie if it came to that, right? Granted, the way we saw it play out, they didn't have an opportunity to. So there's, questions I have, about the measures that were taken after and the decisions that were made, obviously, as any logical person who really cared about Charlie, I feel like, would. And that, again, is just the deeper reason of why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I waited 9 months to kind of observe and just kind of see. I wanted to trust that these people who came out initially and said certain things were going to do the things that they said. We're going to uphold the values and the work that this man had given his life for, the fight that we are in the middle of, that we are on the brink of honestly losing. And I don't think many realized it, to be honest, because again, it is disinformation. We're in a disinformation war, and that's why I'm just trying to get this message out as best I can, because I feel like the time is very much of the essence.
Well, I think that's a good time to pull on that thread. So why don't you take us back to, and you can do a brief recap of the early days and when you were there and what it was like, but really how it started to change in about 2018, right? That's when, like, Erica Kirk came in the picture. That's when
I think it was later than that, actually, dude. like it was more like 2021, 2020. Like, it really wasn't until then. Yeah. Even in 20, like the reshaping, like all those people didn't get brought in until much later on, really.
Well, Andrew Colvett came in 2018, and
because
then
he wasn't like an influential person then. That's what I'm saying. Like, these people were brought in and then slowly, like, brought up into positions of influence, and then they all ended up where they are now. Yeah, they were all picked by Tyler. I mean, Tyler's the reason that Erica and Charlie know each other.
Well, I wanted to ask you. So, dang it, I should just let you take us through it. But I was just, if I forget, I just want to get it out there. That manufactured crisis that Charlie had, where he couldn't resolve it on his own, and then had to reach out to Andrew, even though Andrew had already given Charlie his number and Charlie was ghosting him. But then there was this crisis that happened that he couldn't resolve, and then that's how Andrew came in the picture. Correct?
Yeah, I don't really know how he got brought in. It all felt very suspicious to me. Again, I'll give you kind of my perspective of what I witnessed. In 2018, none of these people were involved. Tyler had handpicked this girl who just graduated from TCU. Her name was Sarah. She was kind of going to run the media side of things for Charlie. It eventually turned into what is now the media department at Turning Point, and then the Charlie Kirk Show. They're now separate entities. They were kind of run interchangeably in the early days as Charlie was figuring his stuff out, the breakdown of things, whatever. But, in 2020, the Charlie Kirk Show was still pretty unknown. COVID had just kind of happened. We had the election.
Yep.
Trump lost. But I think I keep going back to this. This is when people started paying attention and Charlie kind of first got his first push of real institutional eyes, I think, and money and power, whatever. During Stop the Steal, I was working for the Charlie Kirk Show and was running his email, freedom@charliekirk.com, as a college student, as an intern. And I watched this email inbox get 60,000 emails in the span of 2 days. And that's because Charlie and Tyler were going live for 4 to 6 hours every night after Charlie had already done his daily stream and everything else. They would get back on the air and do election coverage.
Wow.
And no one was doing that at the time, right? At the time, this was historic. And that's why we had so many people reach out to us. And on top of that, we got a massive influx of money. People were sending us money like no tomorrow. Because again, we're a nonprofit. Charlie's doing this on his own. We're independent. We're not establishment at this point. We're very much just grassroots, fighting our own fight. A lot of the people I ended up touring with were still the guys doing the show who are still doing it today, right? So again, it was all just what it was. It was a family. We were all in this fight together, right? And from there, it started to evolve, right? And then from there, Mikey McCoy and Pastor Rob McCoy got brought into the mix. And then, slowly Andrew Colvett kind of gets introduced, but he wasn't around really, at least from what I know, until 2020, 2021. And by then I was already an employee of Turning Point USA, and they had kind of begun integrating him on that side of things. But I put out a tweet the other day where, as far back as 2021, I feel like this whole thing, Charlie's, approach on the Israel issue, was being managed by people like Tyler and Andrew, because
for sure
in 2021, I was the producer on a show called Debate Night with Charlie Kirk. And we were trying to get guests to come debate Charlie. And if you go back to 2021, who was one of the loudest voices begging Charlie to debate him is Nick Fuentes. Mm-hmm. So at the time, Tyler had gotten in the chat, and I have screenshots of it, and he said, we should consider trolls with big followings to debate Charlie. And at first I, considered, I was like, dude, we should just, debate Nick. I presented my case. And, Andrew Colvett was added to the chat earlier as well. And, you can look through some of the screenshots, and they weren't the ones who, nixed it. They just said no Nick Fuentes, but it was, again, someone who was chosen by Tyler to be in the position he was, managing Charlie's side of things. Charlie was not in the chat at all. He had no input on who he wanted to debate. It was very much managed. And I think they ran lists by him eventually, but it wasn't, I don't think they ever asked him. And at the time, he didn't want to debate Nick either. Right. It was very much just something that I was like, hey, maybe you guys should think about this. And they shut it down quickly. But it gets to the greater point of what I think we're seeing now, right? Which is Nick Fuentes is now agreeing with these people, Jack Posobiec and Ben Shapiro, and, trust the lone shooter. These people aren't talking about the things the right way. Like, we all know that these people are being paid by another interest. And so, I think that of all things is what's so telling here, is that Charlie was the strongest force against these people, and they knew it. And that's why right now we are seeing desperate measures, right? We saw that with what happened last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm losing track of time at this point, but when Jack Posobiec blatantly lied to the American public and attacked, justice outright, and then hundreds of people who are aligned or even not aligned with him, that get paid by the same media machine, same Zionist media machine, amplified those lies. And they all, in my opinion, waged war on America. They declared themselves enemies of the Republic. And that's, again, what I'm saying. They don't want you to look at their actions that way. They don't want you to think about it that way. But that is what it is. We need to be point blank about it. We need to be direct. No one is articulate anymore, it seems. It seems like our national rhetoric levels have fallen to below sea levels. But, and that's how they lie. That's how they deceive. They use doublespeak, and that's leftist behavior at the end of the day. But what's leftism? It's just, you hate America, right? And so that's, I think, at the core of what this comes down to. You hate Christ, you hate America, and those who hate Christ and hate America killed Charlie Kirk. And I don't think that that person necessarily was Tyler Robinson. And if it was, I don't think that he acted alone. And I think that Andrew Colvett, is the first person we have to ask about that, because he was in talks with the FBI before, and Charlie still ended up dead. So I still just want to know why. And I would love Andrew Colvett. You can answer me whenever, but I don't think he will, because he blocked me.
Yeah, that's how they roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in how, like, after he got in, when did he become like part owner of the, Charlie Kirk show? How did he work his way up?
Well, I think we're going to get there eventually when we start digging into the financials of some of these shadow LLCs that these people have. I don't know. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I think that we have to look into Resolute Media, which we now know has ties back to Israel via Clock Tower LLC.
Yeah, which is also Havas Media Group and Brad.
Yeah, and Salem, and it's all this network, right? Yeah. And I think, at a greater level, this is all a part of the Greater Israel Project, which, they'll call you a conspiracy theorist for saying it until it happens, and then it's real, right? Kind of like the same thing that's happening with the Charlie Kirk assassination theories. But I digress. And, I think they talk about motives. What motive did the left have for killing Charlie Kirk? What did the left gain from killing Charlie Kirk?
Right.
I haven't seen any wins from the left. If anything, all I've seen is the right steamrolling us in a way that feels honestly almost tyrannical. And because we did not vote for any of these things, and when we try to hold them accountable, they tell us to shut up, and they threaten declaring us enemies of the state and terrorists. And now they're using rhetoric such as communism to label anyone who questions things, such as what happened to Charlie Kirk, such as Israel's very obvious subversion of our nation and politicians. They'll label you a communist, Antifa, enemies of the state. We saw Blake Neff doing it at AmFest. And it's akin to that. What they're doing to me is akin to terrorism. You are waging war on America. You guys are attacking.
Sure.
You guys are attacking the foundational pillars of this republic, and you're claiming to love the country while you do it. That's what makes it so deceptive. That's why I'm calling this a disinformation war. And it didn't just begin with the death of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was the first victim in it. He might not have even been the first victim. There were probably plenty before him. He was just the most prominent and the one who threatened them the most, that they had to make a statement for all those underneath him to get in line and not ask questions. And I think that's why we've seen what we've seen with Megyn Kelly. I think that's why we've seen what we've seen with Jack Posobiec. All of these people who considered themselves friends of Charlie, who called themselves friends of Charlie, half of these people who are in office because of Charlie are now going along with the deep state. If that doesn't scream how evil these people are that we are up against, these forces even, that this is not politics. This is not just your average leftist. This is not just your average communist. Like this is Satan manifest in many ways, in my opinion. And we need to say that. We need to talk about that. More churches, more Christians need to be having these conversations openly, articulately, and honestly, because if we don't, we are all going to regret it. And I hate to say that, but history shows. Just look at the Bolshevik Revolution. Just look throughout history. Millions of us will perish if we do not start asking serious questions about the people who are treating us as if we work for them. No, the government works for us. We elected you. And if you are operating for a foreign government before your own people, and you are simultaneously not upholding the values of that republic, which we have entrusted you to defend, it is our lawful right then, as citizens, to do what the Declaration declares. I'm sorry. It is. It is. This isn't like conspiracy. This isn't me trying to incite violence. This is me articulately referencing the foundational documents of our republic in a way that calls out to the King, which is Christ, right? I do not, bend the knee to a politician. I serve Christ alone. That's what founded this country. And we need to go back to that. That's why I'm saying we all should take a moment and honestly just pray as a nation and cry out to God, not in some national Zionist funded prayer group that the White House is putting on. No, just fall on your knees and cry out to God. And we need to be doing that on a regular basis, because these people, these demons are winning the spiritual war, and millions of Christians are being deceived in real time.
You know, going back to what you were saying about motive, Frank Turek said the other night, the three main motives for like murder are sex, money, and power. And I'm like, how did Tyler get any one of those things from this? Or how did the left get any one of those things from this? He's just an idiot, you know, but speaking about like Zionism, like, and how it's had this like stranglehold on us, you know, the Schofield Bible was written by Oxford Press and was funded by the Rothschilds, bro.
Yeah, well, and it's like all of our textbooks that we all grew up reading were, you know, Robert Maxwell, and you see the Epstein connection there, the Epi connection there, and so like it's to me, it's deception, it's disinformation, it's demonic. You just have to call it what it is. You have to remove the veil from your eyes. I was blessed that it happened to me in 2020, you know, and that's why when I was still employed at Turning Point USA, I was saying a lot of the things I am now openly. I was like, hey, this, you know, asking the tough questions that a good person asks. And I think I was sidelined because of that. It's part of why I left Turning Point.
You were ahead of the curve. I didn't find out until 2025 when I started really researching the Schofield Bible. You know,
and that's like another thing, getting to the deception of what has happened. It's very evil, right? Like Erica Kirk took the stage and she said, evil has shown its face.
Yeah.
And I think that she was true. I just think that she was the evil that she was talking about there. And I think that, you know, we know that demons, demonic warfare, spiritual warfare, they have to reveal their hand. They always do.
They reveal the method.
They do. And so I think that in that statement, you know, it was almost like a projection of her and her ilk. And I think if we look at her actions, you know, all like we just have that, there's nothing that you can really say to defend that. And, you know, a Christian forgiving her husband's murderer, I struggle to understand. And then you simultaneously couple that with how much she demands people stop asking questions. She doesn't want people to, you know, investigate. It just doesn't add up with the natural Christian response, in my opinion. And you can say you grieve differently, but again, you're not living up to the initial things you said at the beginning, which was that you need a space for people to go. And you know, ask questions. What would Charlie think about this issue, X, Y, and Z? And every time people have done that, such as Blake Neff in regards to the Iran issue, you say, oh, we don't know how Charlie would react to what's happening. When, again, there's a 16-minute video of him calling Lindsey Graham pathologically insane and saying we don't need to go to war and that we actually need to philosophically consider, you know, the Rand Paul isolationist approach. And so it's blatant doublespeak. These people are acting like leftists. But again, leftists has been a term that the institution has used for the last 20 to 30 years in this disinformation war to keep us at odds with ourselves instead of getting to the root of the issue, which is the real evil that Erica Kirk, I believe, is aligned with. And it gets to the deception aspect, which is like they thought they claimed that they launched a revival, right? And they did. They got millions of people woken up to what's happening. But in the aftermath now, the intelligence agencies very, very tactfully are trying to walk us back into...
Charlie Kirk was part of the revival, and I would argue that Erica Kirk being put in the limelight like she was absolutely did not help the movement at all. And then it's like with Ben Shapiro, front and center, all of these things, saying the things that I will agree that Charlie stood against. And I've called out Ben Shapiro has lied majorly, and again, millions of viewers about things that have happened in the Middle East. He's a propagandist. And he's not America First.
The 2008, 2012 era of right versus left. If you don't like this brazen display of patriotism, which the UFC fight, for example, then you hate this country, then you're anti-American. No, actually, I like events like that. I would love to have two things. I don't see why it has to be one way or the other. Why can't we have a UFC fight and also not go to war in the Middle East? Why can't we have a UFC fight and have homes be more affordable for people my generation? Why can't we have a UFC fight and also get truth on the Epstein files? It is not this one side or the other like fight that you're trying to get us into. All right. Like it's so much deeper than that. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. If evil showed its face, then you didn't do anything to combat that evil. This is what I keep going back to. If the left killed Charlie Kirk, the administration had a mandate to go door to door practically, arresting every leftist and investigating them for their connection with potential terror organizations, right? Because they labeled Antifa a terrorist group. You could go through every person who's liked a pro-Antifa tweet on Twitter and have these people arrested potentially. They did none of that. And so that's my thing is you say one thing and do another. Whether you're Erica Kirk or the administration, you say that the left killed Charlie Kirk, but then you took zero action to dismantle the left. You're trying to rile us up for the next election to fight the left when you guys are the ones in power. You have all the power. We gave you the power to do those things. In fact, the man who was fighting the fight louder than you all was murdered.
I had to refresh because my screen was dark again. Sorry about that.
Logically speak about it, when you don't get worked up, when you don't let these people throw falsehoods your way, and when you don't listen to the labels they try and put on you, because it's all not true, it's all a lie, and just stand on the side of Christ and the truth will be revealed.
What's interesting too, you made such a good point. So like you think about like they brought back the World's Fair this year. We had the UFC fight on the lawn where it's like patriotism, on steroids, right? And it's like,
well, and simultaneously they're staging assassinations.
Right.
But those two go hand in hand. If you criticize the massive, excessive, expensive display of patriotism, then you must be in the camp of these people who are trying to kill the president, which I don't think are even necessarily real events. Because if we look at Donald Trump, I think he's trying to go down in history as the man who survived the most assassination attempts. And we know that all the world's a stage, and that Donald Trump himself spent years in the WWE. And, to think that these people are not actors is naive. You have to do that. The amount of money that politics is a bigger Hollywood, except it has real world implications. Right. Erica Kirk is an actress. I know this. This is fact. All of these people are failed TV show people, failed radio show people. They end up in politics because naive people who can't think critically think that these people who tell them one thing are living for them and advocating for them, when in reality, they're all just profiting off the lies and the crap that they're feeding these people. And it needs to end. And I truly have made it my life's mission to expose this fraud, these liars, these deceivers, these demons for what they are, because it is deceptive. It is evil. And that is not what Christ tells us to do.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that instead of doing the things to actually restore our country to a better time and a better place where it could actually, be genuinely what we want it to be, they're giving us these like Coliseum games, right? It's just a show, right? Like this patriotism on steroids is just a smoke screen that we actually are like making the country better. They're not doing any, and it's pissing off people that are, on the other side, or some people, maybe not all, but like, it's like rubbing it in their face. It's also making people that aren't thinking clearly that like, oh, look, we are making changes. America is, the greatest country in the world, and we are going to make it all better. But it's really, they're not doing anything. It's not making any significant change of any kind. And it's also a distraction from all the things that we want them to do. They're like, no, stop talking, stop asking questions. Look at all the planes flying over. Look at the fireworks, just eat your bread and drink your wine and just go to the next game.
Yeah. And like, I want to say this too. I am like as patriotic as it comes, right? I love my nation. I love my country. Same. I would give my life for it. But I think that these things are being used as tools, right? The trial as well. And it ultimately goes back to, and we can move over to this way if you want, the clip that Elon responded to, the anti-Semitism bit, right? It gets to, you cannot point out the greater evil that is at play in our country. And I don't want people to label me, a Russian asset, which is why I said what I said at the beginning of this, right? But if you go look at some of the rhetoric that comes out from Vladimir Putin or other people in regards to Western democracy and who actually controls those institutions, it kind of makes sense then why our federal government and intel agencies would work to now, if you see online, label Russia and China and all of these people the greatest threat to democracy in America, when 5 months before his death, 3 months before his death, Charlie Kirk was laying it out plainly, no, it's not the intelligence agencies. It's not, it's not, China or Russia. It's actually the intelligence agencies that are our greatest threat. And so it's textbook disinformation, textbook doublespeak. And right now is the time for people to think about what this is worth to them. Do you want to continue watching your UFC fight and gambling for the rest of your life, or do you want to live life the way that God intended? That is free and in a nation that He entrusted us 250 years ago. If we can keep it, right, it's up to us. It's
That's
not
true.
up to, no one's coming to save us, and that's kind of why I'm saying what I'm saying now, because it's now or never. And for 13 years, I had a hand in producing content that I thought would eventually go on to help make a change and save this nation. And I think it did up to a point, and then it became too dangerous. And now it's being weaponized to suppress free thought, to suppress questions. And ultimately, as Charlie Kirk himself said, questions are the most dangerous thing to an illegitimate regime, right? And again, I just want to state this for the record too. Like, anytime we would go to a campus, Charlie Kirk's thing was disagreements come to the front of the line.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've seen that principle lived out by a single person in that organization since his death.
No, did you know? So, well, at least for Erica Kirk too, on her Bible in 365 podcast that she does once a month. She did it yesterday with James Cadiz, who's a Zionist who actually is best friends with a general and a major in the IDF. He's also the one that has the connection to Bibi Netanyahu's brother and Victor Marx. It's insane, but
it's just one big happy family, isn't it?
It's nuts, right?
And maybe that's the turning point family she was talking about in that interview. Maybe that's the one, because she definitely doesn't treat people like me as family, even though I was there before she ever was. So I don't know, man. It's weird.
Yeah. She had her, which is crazy. There's so many times we're saying things like, I want to hit two things at once. At her, what was it? When she was at CLS, was it her CLS speech? When she was like, I was there from the beginning. I watched the blood, sweat, and tears.
Oh, yeah. That's why I quote tweeted and it went viral. I was like, you didn't build anything. You married into this.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you can.
She's a revisionist, bro. Just like all of them are.
They're literally trying to rewrite history.
Yes.
It's what happened after World War II, and it's what's happening right now. And I refuse to let them do it
100%.
To a man that I worked very closely with. And again, I had nothing to gain from Charlie Kirk. I believed in him because of who he was and the kind of man that he was and the vision that he had for this
100%.
country. I worked very closely with him for my entire young adult life.
Question here. I usually try to get on live in the mornings, especially on the weekdays, and so by 10 I usually like to get on.
And I was not put in a position of government. I was not brought into the administration. I was not brought into their fold, right?
No.
And there's a reason for that. It's because people like me and Charlie are threatening to the regime, and they used Charlie. They used his brilliance and his intelligence to get them elected because they knew without him they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
And then the moment that they knew he would threaten what they actually wanted to do to this country and to us, they betrayed him and they executed him. And in the process, they warned all of his friends, you better not get out of line.
Yeah. And
I think to put it as plainly as that for your viewers, especially on YouTube and stuff, like, it needs to be heard. That is what happened. And until Tyler Robinson, until there's that's what happened. And we need to say that, and that needs to be the leading narrative, because historically speaking, the lone shooter always gets proven to be some Fed slop, and there's always a deeper narrative, and that's what Charlie Kirk himself died asking the questions of. He did not die giving a campaign speech. He did not die, trying to get someone elected. So to say that Charlie Kirk would forever just want Republicans to be elected is a lie. Like, no. That's not the core of who he was. Charlie Kirk was the man who went to a college campus to engage the youth and said, disagreements come to the front of the line. Let's hash this out. Let's get to the truth, because truth matters and Christ is real. And what are the implications of that? He was about to get there, and they didn't let him.
Yeah.
And we'll see where this goes, but I'm not going to let it happen. I refuse to.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to talk about things I had already talked about, like in the middle of this stream, because it's very interesting. But I also just because I'm still thinking about Tom Marazzo and other people that I know that were absolutely targeted by law enforcement and other government agencies as well. So not even just law enforcement at all, and in multiple different agencies, right? Like people that were targeted that were, again, CBSA, firefighters, veterans, still serving members, law enforcement across the board. But I also know people personally, and then I even helped them with their speeches, people that were actually speaking during the Freedom Convoy, right? And so even with that, they were, I know that she was not, again, messed with or anything like that, and neither was her husband. And so both veterans, to be clear. And yeah, and so I honestly, I guess it just depends. And yeah, and a few others as well. But even that in itself, like they weren't approached up by law enforcement afterwards or anything like that. I haven't heard of any stories of them being targeted or you know, again, facing any charges or anything like that. And I don't want them to either. Like, just to be clear, not at all. But they weren't plants, and that's a fact. They were not plants at all. They were there speaking. They wanted it to be peaceful as well, and that was in their speech, all of these things. And again, they were talking about COVID and the mandates and the lockdowns and the therapeutics, blah, blah, blah. And again, they wanted to speak with people from within cabinet in the House of Commons. Very respectful. And yeah, and just wanted to get the information out there that was getting censored by the media and stuff like that. Okay. I'm trying to play this, sorry. I gotta refresh it.
Engaged the youth and said, disagreements come to the front of the line. Let's hash this out. Let's get to the truth, because truth matters and Christ is real. And what are the implications of that? He was about to get there, and they didn't let him.
Yeah.
And we'll see where this goes, but I'm not going to let it happen. I refuse to.
Yeah, and like, so if you just look at any of the events that they've had since Charlie's assassination, they make sure to have like their own, you know, pre-written questioners that ask the questions, and then they pull the mic, right? Like they did at the Andrew Colvett, JD Vance thing. Erica Kirk on her show, they have the super chats turned off. It's alive. You can watch live. Super chats turned off. You know why? You can't control who asks a question.
Well, she's made enough money. She doesn't need super chats. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but it is interesting, I think, that people that are motivated by money, that do want money, they're like, we do want money,
but we'd rather control the narrative.
Yes.
Yep, exactly. That's what these people care about more, is controlling the narrative and the truth, which shows you that they don't stand for.
Well, because that's what gets them the money.
Again, they say one thing, they do another. Actions speak a whole lot louder than words.
100%.
And people seem to have forgotten that. And you know, just because someone like Gary Melton, who has thousands of followers on Twitter, who never once cared about Charlie Kirk before he died, gets on there and tries to act like an expert on things, great. Why? You have to go to the root of these. Don't get caught up in the distraction. Go to the magician and go and figure out what the trick being played actually is. Yeah. Don't focus on what's happening. Go to the magician himself and figure out what's happening.
The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, he didn't believe in the 30-odd. Like he has his own.
He's such a fraud, dude. These people are all frauds. They're all.
See, this is where like we absolutely disagree. And I am an actual gun expert, and I actually have these types of firearms. I've shot them before throughout my life. Infantry officer for 15 years. I talk about this all the time. And I was saying even from the beginning that this was a soft point, again, and not full metal jacket, and that this is a 30-06 hunting rifle. That doesn't take away from the other stuff. I'm going to reiterate that. So when people like this say something like that, and again, someone that was possibly fired or didn't work for them anymore, so there might be, again, a little bit of disgruntlement here as well. So again, I'm open to like all views, but I'm also going to come up with my own conclusions out of this, and I'm hoping that everyone else here does that as well. Don't take my word for anything, or look at just what I'm sharing, and that's why I even try to link every single original video that I possibly can, and give credit to the owner, so that you can take a look at that, or you can take a look at the books that I've shared, all of these things to verify for yourself. And so he's already starting to lose credibility for me with this, unfortunately. But again, I'm not biased here, so let's see.
Phonies, and the problem is they're all propped up by one another. So it looks like society supports them, when in reality, if there were more people talking as articulately and plainly and calmly, quite frankly, as I am about these issues, and not getting into spaces and just shouting them down, we would probably not see what we're seeing right now. But unfortunately, you know, I hope this video doesn't get suppressed. I hope people clip it and send it and, you know, post it under these people, because it's the truth. It's these people are frauds, they're liars, you're demons, and Christ is king, and none of you stand for truth based on the way you're acting. It's just, you can say you do, that's great, prove it. You know, it's much harder to prove that you stand for something. And everyone who claims to stand for Charlie Kirk, you're not. I actually am. And
well, not with what you're saying.
You can fact check me on that all you want, but like,
I mean, a lot of what he's saying there is absolutely something to it. Like, and so I'm not taking that away at all. But again, when he goes away from I don't know what he's trying to do. Again, are you trying to get the actual person that committed the murder himself off the hook here? And that's where I think there's a bit of, again, naivety here and bias. That's just my
We're not
opinion.
waging war on the deep state. You're not talking about the deep state because you're all scared and you all know the truth that Charlie was about to unmask, because we all know the truth, because it's the truth. That's how the truth works. You don't need evidence when it's the truth,
No, you do
because
need
it's the
evidence.
truth. And I think we all know the truth of what is going on. People are just too afraid to speak up and do something about it. If I have to be the first person to kind of say something, I will. All right, I lost my job 2 weeks into speaking out because of this stuff.
Okay, so
I'm not in the best place financially, but it's worth it. Because again, if we lose first principles, if we lose this country, then a job doesn't matter. I can't sit in an office and cut a video my entire life knowing that this country is being stolen under Christians' noses. I can't do it. I can't in good faith sit by and do that. So that is my motivation. Again, I just want to make that clear for your viewers. Like, I'm not in this for anything but that, truly. Like that is my why. That is my drive. Charlie gave it to me and I watched them take that from him.
Yep.
And if I'm gonna do what they say they're doing, carry on his legacy, but I feel like I'm actually doing it better, not to toot my own horn, but again, I keep posting videos of him because that's what this is about for me.
Yeah. And going back to that, like, who do you think, I mean, what is your overall theory, opinion as to who really is behind it? And, you know, from the very top down to all the way, whoever had proximity to him, you know, I think an opportunity. Terrell Farnsworth maybe had to be involved to some degree, right? With, depending on what you think about the motive death was.
Yeah,
I would be looking at anyone that has any former ties to Israel's government, like especially like the Likud people, like Netanyahu, etc., people that were IDF, things like that, which are in Turning Point USA, to be clear. And again, I do not trust Ben Shapiro at all. And again, look at my videos; it's been years. I've shared some of the good clips that where he again is sharing good information, and I liked it, and how he said it, I liked it. So I shared that. But I'm also like, but he's also, you know, a liar, manipulator, and he's not America first, right? And yeah, which also, like, again, impacts Canada. And I do agree that there's involvement with like the shadow government, whatever you want to call it. Again, these are the people that are the heads of the military, pharmaceutical, industrial tech complex, right? So even Peter Thiel, Alex Cross, Soros types, Rockefeller, Rothschilds, Clintons, Bushes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're the ones that are part of the steering committees. And this is about money and distraction, et cetera, so they can maintain, again, their power and these illusions and stuff like that. And yeah, they are targeting Christians. They hate Christians, by the way, but they hate Americans. They hate Canadians. They hate the West. And they're dismantling us from the inside. I mean, they've been doing this for a long time, right? So even with the JFK assassination, USS Liberty, you know, Operation Susanna, 9/11, what's going on in the Middle East now, like lying about that. It's just like, when is enough enough? When they even lie, like to Congress, they lie under oath. They don't care. And so, yeah, I do agree with a lot of what he's sharing with that. And I think that Canadians' relationship with America should be the strongest for so many different reasons. But we have been with you guys since the beginning, right? We've even fought each other, et cetera, et cetera. And then also we're aligned with each other. And we've led missions together and operations throughout the world and shared information, training, all of these things. You know, very similar, I would say, culturally, obviously, religiously, things like that. I keep on saying things like that, but more so than Israel, and which again is a new country, newly established, and we have a longer history. And again, we haven't fucked over the U.S. like they have. Respectfully speaking, I'm talking about people working within their government and people working as, you know, like the heads of these foundations, societies, oil tycoons, people like that. Yeah, and so Charlie Kirk is talking about things that would like end wars and again have it where there's more Christian influence in the West. Again, that was hijacked in the last 100 years. So again, he's not wrong with that either. And it is technically incompatible religions when we look at it ideologically speaking, and we look at the teachings. I'm not saying that we can't coexist together, because we have and do. But again, there are people, again, that should be held accountable for exploiting, lying, knowingly causing harm and death. And and so Charlie Kirk was speaking out against all that stuff, and so like that money train was going to end, right? And these billionaire types can't have that, right? Peter Thiel can't have that. Netanyahu can't have that, right? Because he's been banking on these wars now for decades, like I've said, and again he hates Christians, and he hates America, he hates Canadians, and he thinks that like again he's trying to fulfill some kind of biblical prophecy. Again, it's not Christian prophecy at all, and thinking that like he again is better, like the I don't know what you'd call it, like the divinely chosen superior race, like ridiculous stuff. Again, all equal under the eyes of God. Another reason why again there's incompatibilities when we talk about the teachings of Judaism versus Christianity. There's multiple, just like with Sharia law. So again, they're not getting a pass on that either. So
Starts with your motive. I think it starts with what you believe the motive was. And then from there, you look at who benefited the most, right? And from there, I think we can see that Israel and Turning Point USA and its associates have benefited the most, right? And the administration. Those three people. The left has not benefited the most. So that's why I say that the left is a conspiracy. Like
useful idiots, right? That I didn't term that coin, by the way, and I've used this for years, and I think it applies. And that's the red and green alliance. Right. And also like people on the extreme right, which was what I would consider Netanyahu to be. Actually, not even because that's conservative traditional values, more things like that. When this guy, again, is a fucking pervert. Anyways, I shouldn't say. There's just so much I want to say about this guy. Oh, my God. Oh, anyway. Lost my train of thought. Not important.
Left killed Charlie Kirk as a conspiracy.
Oh yeah, and so like people on the people have been propagandized and indoctrinating people on the left and right for 1.5 trillion years, right? So even with Project Paperclip, we had Nazis, literal Nazis, come into the U.S. like Werner von Braun and these others, and they fully captured CIA, NASA, so many other institutions like air defense and all of these things. MK Ultra stuff, they were involved in that as well. And so you had the far right literally found guilty of crimes against humanity and war crimes, like during the Nuremberg trials, came in protected, working for again making a lot of money in this as well. And again, they've also been lying to people for years, and a lot of money going into these space programs and NASA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That again, it's a friggin' grift. It's a money laundering grift. And so even with SpaceX and Elon Musk and stuff like that, and Peter Thiel, keep talking about that, they're also part of the problem. Left and right, same bird, but like different tactics, different ideologies being employed, et cetera. And I've called out Danielle Smith. I used to like her as well. Like these mega and meta data centers that they're building, and the energy like the power plants that they're using to again make these operate, and the closed loop cooling systems, all of these things. Erin Brockovich, she just went on the Sean Ryan show. I would love to go on that show and talk to him about stuff, or just talk to him in person about a lot of stuff, especially for guests that he's had on and stuff like that in the past. And anyway, but yeah, and she was just talking about the data centers and all of this stuff. And so Danielle Smith literally needs to be educated by Erin Brockovich. They should sit down, have a discussion, and then Erin Brockovich can educate her on this stuff, because I think she is very correct and she's very well informed. And I'm so glad she's back, in the media. And anyway, we'll see if she's a plant. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think so.
That is,
it's not true. The left didn't kill Charlie Kirk. It's a conspiracy theory because of everything I just laid out for the last hour.
This is the thing. Like the left, Tyler Robinson was on the left, and so was his boyfriend, and he did shoot him. But again, the reasons why, like what led him to that point, why did he do it? The same thing with the others, like Crooks as well, and why the whys. These people are absolutely falling for brainwashing.
Yep.
So as far as what I truly think happened, I don't know. And I don't particularly care, because I don't think it matters too much. What I think does matter is noticing what has happened and everyone who's benefited and calling that out head on. And then from there, I think as we've seen with people like Blake Neff, the more that we pressure these people, the more we're going to...
like Mark Levin, the Hasbara, like though propagandized the right? And then you've got like the Soros and like that Chinese guy, like billionaire from Like he's sending money again, like to even Ivy League schools. There's even like terrorist organizations that are, even in Qatar, by the way, that are sending money to Ivy League schools in the U.S. and Canada. And again, it's so that they can push a bias, right? They're like, oh, they're giving us all this money. It's so much money. So yeah, like I love these people now, right? So like, let's promote Sharia law. Let's lie about the history of the West. Let's lie about all of these things. And it's complete bullshit. Like, let's lie that a man could be a woman and a woman could be a man. All these stupid things, and get PhDs and doctorates and travel all over the world and these speaking conventions and just educate the world on all of this amazing stuff that we're figuring out. Anyway,
the truth. The more we know, the more we know that now Andrew Colvett was in talks with the FBI beforehand, right? Yeah. And so, again, we just got to keep asking the questions. Who didn't do their job that day and why? Once we figure that out, we'll get to a deeper question. Okay, who were they working for? Why were they working for them? What's the deeper, right? Again, just keep asking questions. When you get an answer, ask another one. And don't let them distract you. Don't let them label you anything. You are a patriotic American for doing that. You're not an enemy of the state. You're not a terrorist. You're not working for a foreign government because you want to know what happened to Charlie Kirk. When you notice 4 people benefiting the most are the same people telling you to shut up. That's not anti-American. That's very patriotic. It's very revolutionary, actually. Yeah. And so, again, to answer your question, I don't know. I look at Turning Point USA, who's made billions of dollars in the wake of his death. I look at Andrew Colvett and Blake Neff, who are, inheriting his platform. But I don't even view what they're doing.
Okay. Well, I will just say that as someone who has deployed, so even after getting out of the military, like the executive protection work, the other stuff that I was doing, like that again at risk to myself and things like that, I knew the risks of the job, and even the VIPs and the primaries that I was protecting, I had to know a lot about the risks, right? For like in so many different aspects and capacities. And so I still did it. And so Charlie Kirk did know the risks, and he did know the threats that were out there. And I do think that he was given ill advice to, like in this case, again, if there was repeated discussion, like discussions about assassination attempts and blah blah blah, Charlie Kirk being mentioned, all of these things, then there should have absolutely been more of a security detail and more law enforcement and others involved if he was absolutely going to have to, if he must go on, right, with the show. And he was a very courageous person, and he had put himself in harm's way many times for many years, right? And he was getting death threats throughout that as well, and targeted, and his family targeted as well, and just all of that stuff. So, and he did know the risks. And again, brave. Yeah, and so I just wanted to put that out there as well. And that's not to take away again, like this was a criminal, horrific act. It was an assassination. It should never have happened. It's disgusting that it did. And that people should get jail. And then again, we have to stop with the relationships that we have, or that you guys have, but then again, that impacts Canadians. And I think we should replace that role with the US. Because even Mark Carney, he just went to that game, whatever that is, soccer or something like that. I haven't really been following sports. And he's all chummy with Trump and stuff like that, and making deals for the US that kind of screws over Canadians. But then as soon as he gets back into Canada, he talks about how big and tough he is and how he confronts Trump and blah, blah, blah. And he educates him and blah, blah, blah. And again, making that division sown within Canada so that we hate the US and that we hate Trump when he's over there on his knees, right? Letting him give it to him, because he is not the boss of that relationship, and it's ridiculous for you. Anyways, and people are even believing that. And there's even Canadians that are afraid to travel to the US, right? It's just absolutely nonsensical. As long as you're avoiding the protest areas right now, again, these losers that hate America, they can't get real jobs, and they're getting good money to do this, and so they just keep doing it, and it annoys all the people that are actually doing real jobs. Anyway,
at this point, as personal gain, I view it as an intentional destruction of the largest weapon against the deep state. And I think that it is managed decline. That's why I put out the tweet today, calculated destruction, because these statements are so blatantly false and so blatantly against what Charlie used to stand for. They are trying to get this past our generation, so then in the next generation, they will have control of the next generation. And that's the point I was trying to make earlier. Charlie was the weapon that they have now got, and they will brainwash your children forever. If they don't do it in the schools, they'll now use Turning Point to do it, right? And that was supposed to be the opposite. It was supposed to be, you're being brainwashed, come to Turning Point.
Yes.
Well, now it's like the opposite. Turning Point is propping up the establishment. It just seems like I don't even know what it is. The Bolsheviks. I don't know. Like it's weird, and I think we need to be talking about that, because if we don't, history shows that things might happen. And as far as who's involved, I think that there's potentially a theory that, I've heard that maybe they were trying to fake the assassination, but again, I don't see that being in the nature of Charlie's character. Charlie was the type of man who was willing to walk into the arena.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted to watch this, because it said he was his cameraman. So I was under the impression that he was actually behind the camera when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And so if he's so close and was working with possibly the guy that was, again, like another videographer or whatever you call it, then why wouldn't he be asking him these questions, right? Like, you saw it through yourself behind the lens. You have the footage. If he, 13 years, like, you think that he would know this guy or ask him these questions.
Taking people head on. And so maybe there is a thread that he was aware of the threats and walked in willingly, right? And maybe, he always said he would die young, and that his death would spark a movement. But I think that, again, it goes back to what movement. And his movement was not just to, indefinitely elect Republicans. His movement was to fundamentally reshape America for America, and in the way that Christ wants us to. Not bombing schoolgirls in the Middle East, not protecting Jeffy Epi and his list, right? And I think that is the core of it. And so I again, because I know a lot of these people personally, I don't really like to get into the who done it, because I don't really care, because for me it also kind of breaks my heart, like to see that none of these people who I trusted and spent a lot of time with, traveled the country with, slept in hotel rooms with, even, like, are having the courage to do what I am now. And that makes me ask a deeper question as to, how evil this evil is that we're facing. Because I know everyone's not a bad person. I'm not accusing everyone in Turning Point USA of being a bad person. I know that there are good-hearted people. They're just like me, who believe in truth, who are Christian, who loved Charlie. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it breaks my brain why I haven't seen more of them asking these questions. So then I ask why, right? I don't care. It breaks my heart. It frustrates me. But then I go, why? What is the evil we are up against? How evil is it? And do people even comprehend that, right? And that's where I feel like the angle I'm coming at this from is very unique. I think that's why I've had...
So even with, like, the attack on Jesus and Christianity, like, even throughout, like, the far left radical... like sexually deviant, more liberal ideologues, like, again, the Billionaire Club, like I've shown countless examples, where, like, people within the LGBTQ plus IA Billionaire Club, they heavily fund NGOs, not like all of these things within the US and Canada, within the West, and they're promoting, again, like, more of a Satanist, like, sexually perverted culture, like more immorality, like, completely against the Bible in so many different ways. Attack on the family, attack definitely on Christianity, on Jesus, not promoting that at all, right? Allowing there to be, again, like, even like devil worshiping, like even again, like during sports, like halftime events and stuff like that. It's all over. And again, even with cartoons, again, like, there's like so much sexualization and stuff like that, like at a very early age and stuff like that. And then again, even like at elementary schools and daycare centers, where there's like trans reading hour and stuff like that, and the people they're bringing in, it's mostly men, all right, and a lot of them, again, are wearing very, I would say, like, what you would assume a stripper would wear at the start of their, like, not at the end, but at the start of their scene or whatever, right? Like, it just very, and again, keep that for the adults, right? So, like, I'm not a prude or anything like that, right? Like, and so I've been to strip clubs and stuff like that, but it's like, it's over the age of 18 or 19 or 21, depending on where you are in the world, right? For like where it's not elementary schools or daycares, you fucking freaks. And again, I don't understand this, because, like, again, you're forcing parents to have conversations with their children well before the age they're supposed to be having these conversations, and they're forcing that, they're introducing it. So even when you force children to say that, like, the pronouns that your teacher wants you to share, even though it's like they, them, or not their biological sex, it's very confusing. And then other teachers and principals, they'll support that, oh, you have to respect, again, the teachers and stuff like that, and that's the pronouns that they prefer. Well, it's actually no, but by doing that, you're confusing my child, and now I'm being forced to have a conversation with my child that I did not want to have at this age, now because you're imposing this on me, right? So even with just like the acceptance of pronouns, if people are saying that's acceptable, I'm saying it's not, because you're forcing children again at that age to, like, again, you're trying to normalize something that is not normal behavior. Again, it's not to offend anyone. I have trans friends too, and people that I've supported and hired, even in security, that are trans. But these are adults. These are adults, and they're not, again, trying to creep into like people's safe spaces, because they understand that there's people that have trauma with that as well. And then when we're talking about sexual assaults and rapes, etc., it's like 95, 98% men doing it, right? Anyways, I'm going on all these tangents. I'm all over the place. So again, so like left and right, and the right, I'm saying like the Nazi types, the Likud types, the Zionist types, and the Sharia law types. And then you got the left. It's just like all the sexual perversions, immorality, and stuff like that as well. And anyway,
a little bit of success here in a month or so. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. It's a lot, and it's, especially for me, it's been a lot to process. I've been working very hard to try and keep myself grounded in reality.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to hone in on it too, like the why, either they're this evil and a lot of people are involved, and it's just like, literally, I was talking about it with my wife the other day, like they're the most evil and it's just so freaking dark. Or I don't know, like they're being threatened, they're being bribed, they're being blackmailed, they're afraid for their own life. It's really hard to find out right now, but I agree that as long as we keep asking questions, and that's what Charlie Kirk said too, you just got to keep asking questions. It's the only thing that keeps you free, that we can hopefully, I said this like a couple months ago, I'm going to be so pissed if we make it to 9/10/2026 and we don't know anything really more than
we won't.
did, and
look at JFK. We won't. I mean, again, you're expecting the same people who pulled this off to investigate it. It's never going to happen.
We're never gonna get a public government admission, just like we still don't have one for JFK. And Charlie was pushing for that too. He's like, release the files, right, about JFK.
That's why I posted that video of him like 80 times now, where it's just who benefited.
We'll know about Charlie, like we know about,
and that's why they keep on burying it. That's why with Trump, like even like his first time in, like even with even the management of COVID and stuff like that at the beginning, but even like there's things that he should know about the reality of the world, and stuff that's being pushed, and that's been pushed and we've been lied to about for literally decades. This guy absolutely has to know about this shit, especially in the networks in the circles that he's in. And the fact that they know that this stuff is legit. And he's not sharing that information with the world. And he's protecting his own, the billionaire club. So, it's very, it's obviously disappointing. Not surprising. There's been good work done during his tenure as well. So I'm not taking that away. But even with this cryptocurrency, like apparently like that in itself, like he's like connected to that and possibly again making a lot of money off of that as well, and that's being pushed anyways.
Okay, it's like we know it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. We know Israel's involved. We know there was more than one shooting. It wasn't from the book depository. There was like probably more.
But we didn't find that out until 60 years later.
Correct.
And that's kind of the point I'm bringing up is when people get on Twitter and they say it's been 200 days since Charlie Kirk.
But you know what though? There were whistleblowers from the beginning that were trying to expose this. Or that died. Like there were people that were leaking this, and I shared that. Again, I've done so many videos on this, but people again that were trying to share this information that they friggin' murdered. And again, it was a long list, especially that first year. Oh my God.
Assassination, and we've gotten no new evidence.
That's why I'm scared to share this.
It took 60 years for us to get the truth on JFK. So forgive me for applying a little pressure 250 days out of the largest and most public execution our nation has ever witnessed.
This was way more public.
That's again double speak. It is not insane to ask questions less than a year out of an event when it took 60 years for our nation to give us the truth on JFK, and even then they redacted half of it.
That's so true.
I don't care. Like it's a lie. It's double speak. It's very easy to speak, like to tear down when you don't get caught up in their distraction. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, one of the other things that I was asking myself is not only who had the most to gain with Charlie dying, who had the most to lose if he stayed alive.
Bingo.
It's the same people who are benefiting right now. And
what I'm saying.
Netanyahu's on that list.
Yeah, and so I think that there's multiple.
Larry Brock.
I want to say it's like streams of interests that you can trace, right? Like the Israel lobby is one, the deep state's another, Turning Point Corporate's another. And I think that all three were not working together is, again, naive, now that we know that Andrew Colvett and the FBI were working together, and Turning Point USA basically put the Trump administration into office. So, you know, that's a naive belief to have to begin with. But they were also the three that had the most to lose, because I think Charlie would realize that these people were not.
Peter Thiel and his connections and the people that he runs with have a lot to lose. And is it Prospera? Again, they want to have their own country with their own laws, all of these things. And again, with like the billionaire club as well. Great. I'm saying that ironically. Bill Gates, again, like people that are part of like the military, pharmaceutical, industrial tech complex at the top, right? Like these are the people that have the most to lose, had the most to lose for what Charlie Kirk was sharing. And the left ideologues as well. People, again, that were getting paid a lot of money to push that narrative as well in academia, in Hollywood, everywhere, in politics.
Who they told him they were, and we're all realizing that in real time. And they are now labeling anyone who calls them out on it an enemy of the state, a terrorist. That is textbook dictatorship, authoritarian regime, authoritarian rhetoric, right? And so it's a tragedy. Not only was Charlie betrayed, the average American who put these people in the office was. And again, I go back to what Charlie said. What they did to Trump in Butler was what they want to do to you. What they did to Charlie is what they will ultimately do to you if they have the chance. Right. The problem is Charlie trusted that Trump was on our side and that these people were on our side. Yeah. And I don't know whether they got bought out. I don't know whether they were all evil from the beginning. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter. They did not do the right thing in the hour of crisis, and they continue not to. And they continue to bow to not Christ, not Americans. They continue to bow to the synagogue of Satan. And we just need to call it as it is.
Okay,
100%. I want to play the video, and we're going to continue, but I need to get through a couple super chats before it piles up too far, and then we're like way too far behind.
Do you think?
All right, we have Chaz Marin. Jesus Christ is the only way, only truth, and the only way to heaven. Christ is King. I agree 100%. Thank you for your donation.
Based, I agree.
Whimsisms. Although Charlie suffered the worst fate, it wasn't just about him, also about destroying the organizational structure that could move as one unit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt Bell, for becoming a member. Quick gaslighting us. I like that handle. This is what it sounds like when people are telling the truth. God has got this. Thank you for your bravery, Matt. Thank you for your bravery thank you for all you do. Christ is King. Thank you, man. We got Sunshine 77. They are using religion as the Trojan horse. Yeah. I mean, like, they're definitely hijacking our faith and spirituality.
They are not. The Judeo-Christian, and this is what I'm writing about in my book, guys, this goes back far. This is like Protestant Revolution, like Protestant Reformation, in my opinion, like a satanic deception of Christianity that has resulted in what we're seeing now, right? You can kind of trace that. So I agree completely.
Have you heard of Jay Dyer? Do you know who Jay Dyer is?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. He's actually part of the reason that like got me on this thread to begin with.
Good. Did you see his most recent episode with Tucker?
No, I didn't know he did one with Tucker. That's awesome.
Last week. You got to go watch it.
That's really cool.
I love Jay Dyer.
Yeah, I'm wearing like an Orthodox shirt now. He's like part of the reason that got me onto Orthodoxy and all that. So
yeah. Wait, I missed one. This guy got to get on more podcasts. Well, he's starting his own.
Potentially. I'm trying, dude. I made the YouTube channel yesterday. I did Stu Peters a couple days ago. Go check that out.
Project Constitution yesterday.
Send this to people so they can see the things I'm saying. So they know I'm not crazy. They know I'm not a blatant, anti-Semite, and I'm actually just trying to save this country like anyone else should be.
Yeah, and I'll talk more with you too off camera about developing your show if you want to do that, man, because we need more people like you and myself out here doing this. So, and yeah, anyone that wants to clip this show in context to combat whatever those crazy
or out of context, I'll tear it down. I don't care. Lie on my name.
I mean, that's true.
Then I'm speaking the truth over here.
You just right back at him. Okay, I did that one. We got a couple more. We got Winnie.
My question to him, legitimately, would be that does he think that, like, so the people that are in that video that I shared and the names that were named with like these active, like the people that were named, if it's true that they were involved, does he not think that they should go to jail? right? So like, yes, there was a conspiracy to kill JFK. That's like, I agree with that as well. There's a lot of compelling evidence and names, and like all of these things, and email correspondence, and tapped phone conversations, and blah 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 blah, and witness accounts, and who they were running with, and even who was there. And so yes, there needs to be accountability, but also like you can't just let the people get away with murder, the people that actually fired the rounds, if that makes any sense. And so that goes back to Tyler Robinson. There is a lot of evidence that makes it where he, there's just a lot of evidence. Please just look at my videos, but that doesn't take away from like who radicalized him, the who, what, when, where, why, how, that led him again to do that on that day. And when, even with like the security, and the lack of it, etc., like during that event, right? Like there's just like, I absolutely agree that there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. But I will also try my best to kind of quash nothing burgers that are going nowhere, because again, that's going to take away from actually looking at like what is interesting. So the threats leading up to the event, people working within Turning Point USA that may or may not have been people that were sabotaging from within, or had an agenda, had their own agenda, and it was completely opposed to and against Christian values and America First values. And especially when you know that billions of dollars a year may be at risk. Yeah.
Do we have any insight on Charlie's
we're not blaming it on people like Mark Levin, even though they had a lot to lose, right? And I'm not saying again that he had any involvement in it, but even his propaganda and BS, right, didn't help, right? And also is radicalizing and brainwashing people.
Do they buy the Fed slop narrative?
I actually have a perspective. I don't know them. I've never met them. Allegedly, potentially, Charlie's dad was involved in the creation of the Trump Tower. I don't know. It hasn't been fact-checked. I've heard one thing. Someone fact-checked me the other day. So I don't know whether that's true or not. There's a potential that is. What I think is interesting, though, is if we think that all of these people are federal agents and or actors or whatever, and we've looked at what's happened in the trial, the senior director of development for Turning Point USA, Stacey Sheridan, was managing Charlie's parents. So why is the director of fundraising, donors at Turning Point, managing Charlie's parents at the trial? That just seems, shouldn't she be doing her job as director?
Oh, yeah.
Why are donors also in that same week?
This again, with this, like going right to conspiracy here, but Robert W. Kirk, the father of the late activist Charlie Kirk, he was an activist anyway, was involved in the construction of Trump Tower in New York City. He served as a project architect manager, and his firm contributed to the design and working drawings of the skyscraper, which was built in 1984. 1984. Anyway, we're living 1984. So context, while the primary design architect was Der Scutt, S-C-U-T-T, of Swank Hayden Connell Architects, that's Connell. Reports confirm Robert Kirk's professional ties to the project, establishing a connection between his family and Donald Trump years before Charlie Kirk's political rise. Verification, although some fact checks note that Kirk's firm did not design the building in its entirety, his specific involvement in the construction and architectural management is consistently reported across multiple sources. Okay, so it's also like not what you know, who you know in networks as well. And like people will hire or try to get people in, to be groomed for great things if there's already that family connection. And so it doesn't have to be necessarily a sinister motive or reason. It could just be, again, just because, yeah, like we want, like your father was involved with the family and the business, and so let's see if you can be as well.
Reaching out to me, giving me, Jewish mystic texts that they saw.
And then there are people that are born into the roles they play, part of the steering committee.
In the same building where Charlie's studio is. There's just questions I have there. And then I think it's interesting as well that Erica Kirk is now speaking on behalf of his biological family.
Yeah,
that to me speaks volumes. I don't know if they do or not. Again, I don't know if they're even allowed to let us know whether they do or not. Again, we cannot comprehend the levels of evil we're dealing with. Look at what they did to Charlie. To think that they wouldn't force someone's parents to just shut up, I think is pretty naive.
Yep. And
And they have the power to do it, you know, like they do. And look at what they did to their son. I'm just to say it that bluntly, it's hard to hear, but like these people want to kill us all. 2030 is a great reset for a reason.
Ask yourself this question. The 3 times that I've seen Charlie's parents since the assassination, right? Tarmac, okay, on the tarmac, who was closer to the parents, Stacy or Erica? Stacy. The White House, when
he's talking about the 2030 agenda, things like that. Left and right are talking about that, but different ways, right? So people talk about Project Bluebeam, some kind of like a fake staged and planned alien invasion. I know this sounds crazy. Anyways, but they're talking about this, and there are literally plans in place to implement this. And these are not aliens from outer space. These are advanced technologies, all these things that are going to be employed by, again, people that are part of Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. I can't say the freaking names of these places. Oh my God, of these companies. I mean, and who's involved? And then Elon Musk, like how involved is he as well, right? Like SpaceX, all these things, rockets, promoting NASA stuff, and it's like that's like one of the biggest money laundering scams in the world, bar none. And that's why I talk about it. People are like, oh, like when you talk about this stuff, like you lose credibility when you talk about like your political stuff, like your war assessments, like all the other events. Like they're like, you lose all credibility, and that's why you're not getting your contracts and stuff like that. Like you've done so good. Like why did you start talking about this? And I'm like, I did not want to, but we don't have very long. If this is something that's a possibility, right? And so I would like to get ahead of it so that it doesn't happen. Right? If they are talking about it, just like they talked about the pandemic and so many other things, 9/11, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so like, that's where I'm at right now. There's literally like, I don't see any other way, right? I'm trying to contact astronauts. I'm trying to give people that are engineers, aerospace engineers, all these things, information that I have literally written and put together because this is being discussed at the top, right? And this will be a lie. And if it is what people think it might be, again, this is going to impact the whole world. And so, yeah, 2026 right now, no big deal.
When Erica's receiving the Medal of Freedom, who was closer to the parents, Stacy or Erica? Stacy was. And then at the courthouse, who was there?
Even that, right? Like this is not to fear monger or anything like that, because again, there's so many people that like predict these, like even like world ending events, blah, 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 never happens. Not even close. And then a lot of crazy people do a lot of crazy things during that time, right? So like, I don't want to, again, stress people out or anything like that, but I would like to share medical, like government and scientific data that proves that what we are being taught and what we are being shown is not at all based on reality.
Escorting them in, Stacy.
And
I
at
don't
times
think
it felt like Stacy was almost like put in the company to manage and handle Charlie, kind of baby Charlie. I don't know. It, like when she entered a room, dude, like the air left the room. I kid you not. I was like, you don't talk to Stacy. You don't ask what she does. Like it was very much don't ask, don't tell. Like it was weird, right? Yeah. And I noticed that from the onset. And so that's where I go back to like, this was not something that just happened overnight. This was not something that just took place in 2025. Right. This didn't happen after we got the president elected. This was, I think that they identified Charlie as an asset and they used him to get what they wanted. And then the minute they realized he would be a threat,
yes,
they also are using him to further that end goal.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
You just have to take a step back, look through history, not remove yourself from history, put yourself in the history book and realize that we will be reading about this one day. It's up to us to define who writes that truth. Yeah. Who defines what happened here. It's up to us to define that. And I waited for 10 months to see if anyone else was going to come out, and no one did. And so I did.
I'm going to break this up a little bit. And this is going to be redundant for some people, but maybe not for others. And so, some of the files, like they got lost or corrupted. But anyway, so this is Stephen Hawking's. I was able to get a copy of his Flat Universe dissertation from 1966. And I just controlled F flat. So just to share, again, flat universe, not flat Earth, but like again, it is worth noting that this result was obtained without assumptions of a smooth distribution of matter or of conformal flatness. But it, again, I'm just sharing what he wrote in this. I want to make sure I'm not on mute though. Okay, I'm not. Okay, so let me see what else he says in here. Okay, we consider perturbations of a universe that in the undisturbed state is conformally flat, and that is, it gets into all these mathematical equations. Okay, so we consider perturbations of a universe that is in disturbed state and conformally flat. Okay, so gravitational radiation. So it's interesting that he's talking about radiation, which I would call centripetal. Centripetal, I always mix those up. Outward versus inward. Centrifugal. Let me see, I think it might be centrifugal, but let me just confirm this. Again, my brain is all over the place. I just focus on too many things. Yeah, centrifugal. Anyway, centrifugal and centripetal is inward. Okay, let me go back into this from Hawking's. Okay, so like the sun, for example, they would consider that technically like, I don't know, well, at least radiating energy, which is centrifugal. And empty, which is not empty. So asymptotically flat space has been examined by means of asymptomatic expansions by a number of authors. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so asymptotically flat space, that is space that approaches flat space at large radial distances. We consider it an asymptotically conformally flat space, as it is only conformally flat. The Ricci tensor and the density of matter need not be zero. Okay, it was shown in chapter 2 that a conformally flat universe filled with dust must have one of the metrics, and it gets into again more mathematical algorithms. And again, it's very interesting. I think his terminal, like flat universe, I say that this cosmos, again, like where we humans exist, is in the habitable range, which is in itself flat. But again, the toroidal and colloidal fields that contain this, again, like that would be what they consider to be the cosmic egg or the globe. But we live within that, just like you see from so many different examples of the past. And I'm going to share more than just this, but this is just Stephen Hawking, again, universe. He's not talking about the Earth here when he says that. Okay, so to a conformally flat form. Okay, so interesting, because case of gravitational radiation in empty, and again, you can't even have that in empty space. So asymptotically flat space, it turns out that this group contains not only the 10-dimensional inhomogeneous Lorentz group, the group of motion of flat space, but also infinite dimensional super translations. Anyways, it goes on from there. So these super translations might have some physical significance in elementary particle physics. Okay, so this should be compared to the behavior for asymptotically flat space, for which, again, more mathematical equations that you can see for yourself. It's worth noting that this result was obtained, yes, again, so we're just going back to the start. Okay, don't know if you can see this. Which one is this? I keep some things up. The vaccine events. Yeah, replacement migration. Population Division, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, United Nations Secretariat, replacement migration. That's a flat Earth map, by the way. Alex Gleason right there. Not that it has anything to do with this report. So this is the 21st of March, the spring equinox, 2000, the year 2000, 26 years ago. Replacement migration, is it a solution to declining and aging populations? And this is what I've been sharing with people for years, and they're like, it's not happening. You're such a racist. You're such a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, United Nations, literally just look at this, Pam, right? And then they don't want to look at it, and then they get angry, and then I'm like, I don't know what to say. Anyways. Moving on. You see, I go all over the place. Even this stuff frustrates me, because I'm like, I'm not the one that's writing this shit. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so this is NASA TN D as in Delta 645, extra copy. NASA technical note. This was declassified, by the way, so you can't get me on that. Calculation of wind compensation for launching of unguided rockets. It tells you who it is. I've talked about this before. Langley Field, Virginia. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, Washington. Let's see if sometimes you have to go. Okay, so yeah, it goes in here. This simulation assumes a vehicle with 6 degrees of freedom and aerodynamic, and even with that, say symmetry and roll, and the missile position in space is computed relative to a flat, non-rotating Earth. It's computed relative to a flat, non-rotating Earth. And it goes on from there, but that's the only ones that they're going to give you. You have to read the whole document. So this one here, derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model, NASA reference publication 1207. And again, even that, right? They use these numbers a lot. August 1988. Sometimes you have to scroll down because it doesn't give it to you right away. But so let's see here. NASA gives you all the people that are involved in it. All this. This report documents the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Flat, non-rotating Earth. And it goes from there. But again, sometimes you can't even just control F. You actually have to read the document, and you have to get it from the Wayback Machine, archives, things like that, because it is very varied. And there's like 44 documents that I've shared, by the way, that have been archived and hidden, and I've been able to find and save. Let's see what this one is. Yeah, so propagation of electromagnetic fields over flat Earth, Army Research Laboratory, February 2001. And again, this has been taught for thousands of years. It's even in the Christian Bible, right? And there's so many references, over 200 plus references of what the shape of the Earth is and what it is and how it was made and who made it, etc. Okay, so yeah, so propagation of electromagnetic fields over flat Earth. Oh yeah, going into numbers. Anyway, so that's just an example of stuff that I share with people who are engineers and stuff like that. And all right, this is getting a little dry. I'd like a little more proof from him.
In this proximity, right? And so, it truly is up to us to rewrite the narrative, to speak truth to power, to not let demons lie on an innocent Christian man's name who isn't even here to correct it.
That's true. They are.
Yeah, I mean, like, they would allow him to be around as long as he was benefiting them. But the moment that he posed any kind of significant risk to them and their future plans, he actually became more beneficial to them dead because they could make him say whatever they want now.
And he became a martyr against the left.
Yeah.
And they can conveniently ignore, the deep state and everything that Charlie was basically sounding the alarm on in the last 6 to 12 months before his death, even as far back as 2023. And it's just so apparently obvious to me what's happening because I was there for so long. I felt a lot of this taking shape early. I didn't know what it was back then. And then in hindsight, it's like, wow, I should have just, because again, I've said this multiple times too, they worked to build a culture in which, as an employee, regardless of how long you'd known Charlie, going to talk to him would be seen as an act of subversion. Again, kind of like what they're trying to get the country to believe now, right? Asking questions is anti-American. If I was to go to Charlie and raise anything, it would be anti-Turning Point. It would be, all hell would break loose. And this is a guy I met when I was 15 who was 18. Like we met when we were kids.
Wait, so they were like significantly isolating him from people within the organization?
Yes, top to bottom.
You had to go through other people.
Yes, that Tyler Boyer had put there himself, dude. That's what I'm saying. He was managed like an asset.
They do that. They're handlers.
Directors, managers, they all were approved by Tyler Boyer. I watched people.
Yep. handlers across the board, and definitely Charlie Kirk had handlers as well. Candace had handlers, and even like our astronauts in Canada, they have handlers. And the Canadian Space Agency takes over their accounts, all of their social media. So even someone that I know for years now, I've been trying to share with him information, and then yeah, they took over his account, and so it's unfortunate.
Friends with Matt, who I would be sending
Or I was
Nick
the other one.
Fuentes clips to. We'd be talking about the JQ, all this kind of stuff. Get brought up as a manager overnight, flip like a light switch, just corporate turning point rhetoric. Nope, we got it. And I was like, who are you? We were friends. Like what happened to you people? Like, and like that in and of itself was just weird. And, you know, it's a small instance of it, but yes, like literally the access to Charlie was heavily filtered through Andrew Colvett, Tyler, Marina Minas, other people that were put in positions of directors. And that's also where, you know, Charlie spoke at length about work ethic and how much work ethic meant. And I'm someone who prides myself on my work ethic. Quite frankly, I spent so much time around Charlie. How could you not? Yeah. And then I sat there, you know, for years as a young person, and I watched as Tyler brought in people with awful work ethics, and were elevated to positions of influence, directors, managers. And I was sitting there as someone who, you know, as long as I had been there, just kind of did the right thing for the sake of the movement, for the sake of the mission, for Charlie, whatever. And I obviously didn't see the results I was looking for. I never got a chance to kind of make an impact in the way I wanted to. I made a documentary on the FBI, funny enough, where I interviewed an FBI agent who said that if you don't think the FBI is already monitoring Charlie Kirk or even people like yourself, this is in 2022, then you're not listening to anything I'm saying, right? So I was aware of this long time ago. I felt it. I knew what was going on. I just didn't know how big it was going to be and the connections, right? But Marina's the one who didn't let my video go on YouTube because they were afraid of it being demonetized, right? And so then it's like, you don't actually care for the truth. You just you know, care for money, whatever else. But yes, all these people were installed slowly over time, over the years, by Tyler. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. You're on both sides, Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action, your career is made or broken by Tyler Boyer, your relationship with him. And I think that the financial aspect of Turning Point USA is coupled with that. There were a lot of people, dude, they would just create, they would go director. And then if they had someone they wanted to make a director, they would just create senior directors. And so now they had like 2 people getting director salaries. Like, and it's just, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And I think that Charlie, who was so isolated from the company he built, that had become managed by people that Tyler himself put there, started to kind of catch on to that after the election. I think that during the election, you know, he was prioritizing saving the West and putting people that he thought he could trust into positions of power to take the action that he himself thought was necessary to save this country. And then after the election, he was like, okay, all right, let me look at what's actually going on. Let's kind of take a look at this Doge audit. Like, and he didn't get a chance to do that. Now it doesn't matter because they've made billions since his death. But you know, I think before he was starting to get onto that. And I think that, again, you ask who had the most to lose. It's Tyler Boyer and everyone that he had installed in a position of management that was not put in place to be effective and to advocate Turning Point USA effectively. Rather, it was put in place to manage it. And I think we've seen that now.
Yeah. Yeah, he was about meritocracy. Like, that was one of the things, like, it's about like, it's not about what race, gender, you know, nationality, whatever you are. It's about like you earning your way to the top or to wherever you are, right? Just earning your place, just on merit, right? And you look at, and so Matthew Tucciarone said the same thing about Tyler Boyer and the people that he brought in as well. They weren't people that earned their way to the top by working hard. They earned their way by being people that.
I'm going to say it during this video. Again, it's a long video anyway, and so people are probably not really listening too much. But I've talked about that, the influence of people within like the Israeli government that are lying to people and propagandizing people within the West, and just how heavy their influence is, not just in the US, but it's in Canada as well. And I've seen it for myself and experienced it for myself. So even the Bikers Church in Ottawa, after going there, I do think, again, that they had access to my phone somehow. Someone from, again, another friggin' country, or someone working here from that on behalf of that country, and I'm talking about Israel, full disclosure, and where when I looked at people's searches and from what countries they were searching my name, I even shared this, like where it was like it popped up significantly within Israel, again within not shortly, like not long after, again, my attendance at that place. That's why there's some places I don't like to go, because I know after that I become a target, even if it's just with more surveillance and things like that. I don't like the heat, but I think it's necessary at this point. And yeah, and I do think that even with that, like there's just too much influence, and then they reach out or contact these people, or again get people to survey us in case, to see if we're going to be an ally or someone that's going to be a dissenting voice against, right, the wars and stuff like that, and the pharma stuff as well. So even with Israel and Netanyahu and the push for these vaccines for COVID, where did that start, and where was the biggest push, right? And then with Bill Gates, obviously, and stuff like that as well. And then even within our intel and private companies, security companies that are that are responsible for the national security of Canada as well, and people again that were former prime ministers of Canada on the right, people that were former premiers of Ontario from the right, people that were former special forces, really high ranking, that are part of these organizations, these again connected to INT and cyber warfare, all of this stuff, and they're operating out of Toronto, Tel Aviv, and Jersey City. And it's been a number of years now, and I have tried to gain access to these groups, and I have in the past, but again, even just trying to speak to these people about what you think to be the truth and calling out things, again, they don't like that, so they don't invite you back. and they don't hire you for contracts, and they don't want to meet up and discuss, even though they're Canadians, and it annoys me, and they're supposed to be Canada first, and they're selling us out for a bunch of dork bankers. And again, people part of the steering committees of WEF and the EU and the Trilateral Commission bullshit.
Could be controlled by them.
Loyalists. Yeah, blind loyalists. If you didn't ask questions, you were elevated. If you're like me, if you're like Aubrey, if you're like Matt, if you are like Charlie, quite frankly, if you question things, they don't advance you. And it's funny because you talk about delivering results. In spite of that video I made not going on FBI, it ran to 500,000 views in 7 days on Rumble. It's still Turning Point USA's most watched video on Rumble. If you go check it right now, sorted by views.
What is it called?
It's called FBI Whistleblower: The Enemy Within. Go to the Rumble and search it, change it to most viewed. My video should pop right up unless they've taken it down. But it also went on to win a Gold Telly Award that year, 2023, for a documentary. And at the time I was 23 years old, I think. And, was a producer, I think. And I went in around the time that they were doing reviews and raises, and I was like, hey guys, here's some results I delivered. Can I get a reasonable salary for a producer now? Because at the time it was about 20 grand below.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a young person. It's a grassroots organization. I'm sacrificing a lot in spite of this because I believe in these people. I trust them, whatever. I just delivered an award-winning documentary that racked 500,000 views in a week. Can I get the rate of a salary for a producer in Arizona? The average rate. I wasn't asking for anything insane, right? I was asking for the base salary rate of a producer in Arizona. And they laughed me out of the office. And at that point, I was just like, all right, cool. I kind of see what's going on here. At that point, we had a new director brought in to production specifically, who has a very sketchy background. He spent years in Europe running drugs and, was very open about that. And then, he comes to Turning Point. And now in hindsight, I'm like, cool.
I'm just going to give you just a refresher of Tyler Bauer, Bowyer. And so Ku, I think that's Chief Operating Officer of Turning Point Action, or Turning Point USA, has never served in the Israel forces, IDF. The connection between Bowyer and Israel is political and professional, not military. Pro-Israel activism. In 2019, Bowyer hosted Yair Netanyahu, son of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who hasn't served in the military. He's not fighting in the war. He lives in the U.S. And so for an event with the Arizona Israeli Public Affairs Committee, a group he appeared to lead, photos of Bowyer, Yair Netanyahu, and Erica France, now Erica Kirk, from this event have circulated widely. Business ties. Bowyer chairs Superfeed Technologies, a data firm that reportedly operates as Israeli subsidiary involved in collecting conservative voter data. Could possibly be involved in also voter rigging, and why Massey lost as well. Interesting. So conspiracy theories. Following the assassination of Charlie Kirk in 2025, Bowyer became a target of conspiracy theories promoted by figures like Candace Owens, alleging Israel involvement. Bowyer has vehemently denied these claims, and no evidence supports the idea that he is an IDF operative. Okay, so it's because he's a pro-Israel advocate. And again, links to war criminals and people who are within the family of these war criminals and are not fighting in these wars, but Americans are and Canadians are. Anyways, there's more. I've done videos on him last year.
So did you like make a deal with the feds, and like, are you now being used? Like, again, it's just questions I have, right? Because, you know, there's been videos of him talking to Chinese state media as well. So it's just like,
is he still there?
Yeah. His name's Marcus Wada. He's the director of the new documentary that's coming out. That's produced by Turning Point USA Productions and a bunch of people I used to work with. Terrell Farnsworth is also on the credits list.
What is it about?
It's a documentary on Charlie's life, but if I was to bet, they're going to wait.
That one.
I bet they're going to wait to release until after the verdict. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. I want to know where all the footage from the cameramen that day that aren't VI guys, that are Turning Point USA Productions camera ops.
The front left and the back left.
I want to know where their footage is and why we haven't seen it yet. I want to see it all. I want it to be played in court. If it's not, that indicates a deep state cover up, in my opinion.
Dude, so I've gone back and looked at all of the campus events from 25 from the spring, campus tours, and then like 24. The front left camera and the back left camera on that day, because sometimes it's on the other side. It depends on the setup of the campus. Obviously, you know that, right? But those two right there, I think, would give us way more answers than.
Dude, and I said this the other night. I talked to the girl who was on the camera.
The one in the front, right?
I talked to her the week of. Because again, 9 days after was when Candace was already coming out questioning things. It's very much in her nature. I knew.
Yeah, I only watched 40 minutes of this, but yeah, these are good questions because like I was under the assumption that he had already asked these camera guys about the footage and stuff like that, and so like I don't know if he did or not. He still hasn't said it. Maybe he will. But again, if he knows these guys and stuff like that, I would be asking those questions 100%.
What she was going to do when Charlie died. I knew what was
and
going to
even
happen.
If they can't give it, right, because again, like this is supposed to go to again like FBI and stuff like that, who seem to be covering up a lot and not looking into leads they should be looking into, and again giving immunity to what's his name, Lance Twiggs, like that in itself also super weird. But again, I still think Tyler took the shot. But anyway, yes.
To label Candace a crackpot anti-Semite, and then they're going to roll out crackdowns on speech because that's where Charlie was going. And I think
they are trying to do
and
that.
we see that happening right now. And so, you know, I was already afraid of that happening, but at the same time, I was also very skeptical. You know, wanted to kind of trust things at least initially, as we all do, right? As we all do.
Yeah.
So, you know, the week of, I was kind of skeptical of the things Candace was saying. I was talking to her, and you know, the text that she has said has always stood out to me, which is if she wants to see what happened, play my tape, play my camera, play my angle. And again, I said it the other night. I'll say it again, like roll the tapes. Like it's not hard. We know it exists. I know the footage exists. I was behind that camera every day practically for a year. And, you know, I would love to see that, to just, again, if you want to call me a conspiracy theorist for saying it's not a bullet, prove it to me. Show me the footage that Jordan's camera was running. Show me that footage. Show us all. If you guys stand for truth and you care for truth, prove it. Roll the tape. We've all seen the video already. It's not going to affect us anymore. That it's in a little bit higher quality. In fact, it will probably help us all put this thing to bed once and for all. If you want us to shut up about it, roll the tape, Turning Point.
Yeah, we just
Terrell,
want answers.
Terrell, no, I want Terrell to hear this. Terrell,
go ahead.
Play the tape. Because by not, you are all indicating, if not guilt, complicitness in this. Because why haven't you, for the sake of truth, for the sake of Charlie Kirk, who gave his life for truth, just played the video that is as close as the camera I'm recording from now was to Charlie? It would end this entire debate, but he hasn't, in my opinion, because this is a deep state cover-up to roll in speech about anti-Semitism, and all the speech that we're having online right now is all being documented. We're all being put on lists. Like this part in our nation's history, friends, it's going to get darker. I promise. It doesn't get brighter from here. It is up to you all, including myself. I can't do it alone. To stand up. It's time. Like I'm sorry. And again, I'll say it again. Turning Point. Play the videos. Play the audio, please. I'm begging you. You guys have it.
It's going to be horrific. But we already saw.
Have you spoken?
We already saw, right, like footage of him getting murdered, right? And so, if this is something that can squash a lot more rumors, then like during the trial, then and again, we're only going to find out if there's a trial or not on the 1st of September, I believe it is. Which again, that's why so late. It's obvious, right, that this should go to trial. And is that something that that should be considered. But yeah, like I'm going to look at that again, like, because again, there would be at least one cameraman that was there that I can recall seeing. Maybe there was two, one in the front, one on the side, and they would be filming from the front. That like the people that were asking questions and Charlie answering them. And so he was saying the guy's name was Jordan, but yeah, I'm trying to search online, but it's just talking about this this other person, Terrell Farnsworth, the TPUSA cameraman. Okay, so that footage. Okay, so contrary to claims that the footage was withheld, Terrell Farnsworth, the TPUSA cameraman, did submit evidence to law enforcement, but the method of transfer has become a major point of controversy. Submission via flash drive. Court testimony and reports confirm that Farnsworth did not hand over the original SD cards from the cameras positioned behind Charlie Kirk. Oh, that's behind. Okay, instead he removed the cards, transferred the video files onto a flash drive, and submitted that drive to the police. Again, like a lot of people do that. Chain of custody concerns. This action has drawn sharp criticism from figures like Candace Owens and conspiracy theorists who argue that copying the files breaks the chain of custody. It does, but again, do like security officials know that when they're asking you to submit evidence, and you want to do it fast, right? Like, and yeah, so should they be there and the ones doing it? Yeah, I will agree with that. Yes, they question why the original media was not preserved and raise the possibility that the footage could have been altered, edited, or selectively deleted during the transfer process before reaching investigators. Footage status. While the data was submitted, the original raw files from the SD cards have not been made public. Okay, so doesn't mean they don't have them now. And the specific back angle video has not been released in its entirety to the public, though prosecutors have reviewed it. Farnsworth has stated he acted under direction, though Owens disputes that police ordered the removal of the SD cards. She wasn't there. I'm going to look more into that. Because he said Jordan.
The girl, like you can say, like if she wants to, like not have.
I did recently, and I never got a response. And that's the thing. I've noticed my relationships with these people since coming out have pretty much ended. So
these two cameras are not Visual Impulse; those are Turning Point.
No, the two under the tent are. They're the ones externally around the tent. The other guys running around with cameras and stuff. Yeah. Those guys are I would imagine Turning Point USA Productions.
Got it.
And that's why I'm saying I think some of this footage is going to be in that documentary, and I think they're waiting for a verdict. Oh, because if footage makes it in that documentary that wasn't admitted as evidence, we can't go back once a verdict is made, right? But what we can do is call for evidence beforehand, and that's what I'm trying to do. Is I want to see that footage from every camera that was there. There's at least 5, I think, that I've counted. The one behind Charlie, the 2 facing him, and 2 to the left of the tent.
Yes,
I want to see all that footage. It should just all be released publicly.
Yeah.
Put it on the internet, put it in a Dropbox folder, let us all watch it. Why haven't you? Because you're hiding something.
100%.
Honest people don't hide things like this. And you can say that you don't want to corrupt the case.
Yeah, I was just going to say you don't want to corrupt the case because you don't want to prejudice a jury, all of those things. And so that is a fact. Like if you give it where you're giving all the evidence that should be withheld until trial during the preliminary hearings, which is not a trial. Like no one does that. You just need enough evidence in order to, again, make their consideration.
It's okay. Is that because you're trying to convict an innocent man wrongfully and in a kangaroo court? Because this seems like the one thing that would shut everyone from Candace Owens to Baron Coleman to you to me up.
Yeah.
I just want to see the footage, guys. It's not hard.
It's for answers. We want answers. That's why we want to see it. We're not, and they try to that's
what I'm saying. It's doublespeak. It's akin to left. They hate America and they want us all in camps.
They're like, you're so sick. You want to watch that. Anyone that wants to watch that is so.
I don't actually. I care a lot about what happened, and if you want me to believe it's a bullet, I'm going to need to see it entering his neck in 4K because we have the technology to do that, and the fact that you guys aren't is kind of insane. But.
And I said the same thing about if something happened to my wife, like as hard as it would be, I would not do what Erica did and say, I don't want to see, which is weird because then she goes into the hospital and the surgeon's like, you don't want to see how the bullet ravaged his neck. And she goes, get out of the way. I want to see what they did to my husband. And it's like, okay,
they contradict themselves every time.
But I would want to see the video so that I could know that the official narrative is what the videos capture. right?
We
Like
should see
I
a
would
trial
want to know
then maybe.
how did my partner die and who, because then I could start tracing it
Yeah,
back
trial,
from that. Like,
they have it.
okay, now I have a good understanding of how they died. This is what all these people are saying. It doesn't match with that. It's going to give you a starting point. But she, in my opinion, probably she already knows. So that's why she's not interested
Well, yeah,
in
also she's the one who benefited the most off of his death. Nobody knew who Erica Kirk was before, unless you were kind of vaguely associated with Turning Point.
Yeah.
And now everyone in the world has heard her name.
Yeah.
To say that she wants the truth on this, I think is hilarious, because we all know she doesn't, because the truth would expose who she really is.
Yeah.
And I know parts of that I haven't made public yet. I will be at some point. But again, like, there's a lot that people don't know. There's a reason that they're working to keep it private, and it exposes a greater evil. I think that many are either afraid to call out publicly, or they're just unaware of. In both cases, enough is enough, and it's time to start. It's time to start shouting from the rooftops for my fellow Christians, because I don't want us all to suffer at the hands of these demons anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane.
Well, and her mom's connected to Brad Parscale, and
it's one big happy family,
Yeah.
and they tell you who they are when they say things. They just use double speak. I think when Erica said it's one big Turning Point family, I think she's implying to the federal government connections that helped her become the
Okay, so again, I'm going to look more into this. I'm just going to stop him from now, because this Terrell Farnsworth, I wanted to look more into it. Okay, so I was asking, so who was the cameraman? Was Terrell a videographer who stopped recording live from the front and then took the surveillance footage from behind Charlie after he was assassinated? So Terrell Farnsworth was the contracted videographer for Turning Point USA, TPUSA. So Terrell, Terryl, Farnsworth, Farnsworth. Okay, so he was not the cameraman filming from the front or side of Charlie Kirk when the shooting occurred. Okay, so Farnsworth was operating the camera's position behind Kirk, the overhead or back angle. He is the individual who stopped recording the live feed or removed the cards immediately after the shot, removed the SD cards from those specific rear cameras, transferred the files to a flash drive, and submitted them to law enforcement. So whatever he was recording and then what they have from that surveillance, he has submitted that to law enforcement, again, apparently, and that law enforcement have reviewed and stuff like that. So okay, so he did not switch the surveillance footage. He handled the professional broadcast cameras his team had set up. Front side coverage. The footage from the front and side of Kirk showing the audience and questioners was captured by other individuals, including Logan Topman, Topman, UVU Review, so University of Utah Review, who recorded video from the audience side. And we've seen a bit of that too, I believe. So Charles McClintock Wilson. So McClintock Wilson, a local photojournalist who was standing just 5 feet away from Kirk and captured videos from the side front. Adam Bartholomew, a live streamer who recorded over an hour of footage from the audience, and various audience members using cell phones. So there's no evidence that Terrell Farnsworth was operating a front-facing camera. Stop recording it. Okay, so fine. His controversial actions were strictly limited to the rear-facing professional cameras his team controlled. The surveillance footage, CCTV, shown in court was obtained separately by investigators from Utah Valley University's security system, not by Farnsworth. So no, Terrell Farnsworth was not the only cameraman working the event. I just wanted to reiterate that. Multiple other cameras were recording from different angles, and law enforcement possesses footage from all known sources. So other camera locations and operators, while Farnsworth managed the official TPUSA broadcast cameras positioned behind Kirk, several other independent operators and systems captured the event. Professional journalists and live streamers in the audience recorded the front and side views. I already said their names. Okay, so surveillance, CCTV, Utah Valley University. Nearby private cameras. Investigators seized doorbell and home security cameras. We've seen that. Audience's phones. Thousands of attendees recorded the events on cell phones, providing countless additional angles. So police possession of footage. So yes, the police have collected and reviewed this footage. Volume of evidence. Lead investigator Sergeant David Hall testified that law enforcement reviewed hundreds of hours of video, combining campus surveillance, private security feeds, and footage from thousands of attendees. Prosecutors have submitted multiple graphic videos of the shooting. taken from at least 3 different angles as evidence in the preliminary hearing against Tyler Robinson. While these specific clips were deemed too graphic for public broadcast and were only shown to the judge and attorneys, they are part of the official court record. And it goes on from there. Okay, so it does. Okay, so again, I just want to. So yes, law enforcement possesses footage from all identified sources, including the independent cameramen and journalists that I had already mentioned. So seizure and submissions, investigators confirmed they collected and reviewed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Charles McClintock Wilson, Logan Topman, Adam Bartholomew, and more. Okay. Let's see what else he has to say.
CEO of the largest pro, America anti-deep state group that is now propping up the establishment and not doing anything that we elected it to do. So I think it's pretty clear when you lay it out like that, and then people will come in and try and say, I'm attacking Charlie, as if like I wasn't there up until 4 weeks before he died and was the Charlie kid in high school who was getting attacked.
So he left 4 weeks before he died. Maybe there's more to this guy too, because now I'm thinking like, what, did you not like what he was sharing too, and like so you didn't want to support that anymore? I don't know. And now you're recanting on that.
Like you guys all came into this when it was lucrative. I was in this game when it wasn't cool to be a conservative, and I'm still a conservative. I just don't align myself with you guys anymore, so I'm not going to call myself a conservative anymore. I'm just an American. I'm a Christian, and Christ is King, and you guys are acting in ways that are not aligned with Christ at all. So I don't know.
Let me read a couple more and then we can get to the video. And then I was actually going to ask you some questions too about because you were there when here, I'll stop myself before because then we'll get in.
I just want to get to the video.
For now, follow me on X, Artifacts Memoir.
Which we're going to get to that in a second. And then, once you have more set up like YouTube channels into the Lion's Den for Truth, thank you, Matt, for hosting him. I hope to see much more. Thank you, Angela Brooks. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got Jim Carey. How can we support Mitchell? We love him. How can people support you?
For now, follow me on X, Artifacts Memoir.
Actually got you pulled up, so let's go.
I should get something set up here.
Well, also, a Mystic, can you throw his X account in the chat as well, that people can see it and they can go there and then hear. And we're going to get to this post in a minute that he just did, but this is Artifacts Memoir. This is where you can come and give him a follow. I'm following him. You would click on this. It would say black. It would be black, and it would say follow, and you just got to click on that. Let me go back so I don't lose the post that we have. All right, which we're going to get to that in a second. And then, once you have more set up like YouTube channel and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just created the channel page yesterday. You can go. You might be able to go subscribe. It's Artifacts Memoir on YouTube.
Is it?
There's nothing designed on it. It literally should be up. I think. I don't know if it actually got made. I think I created it. And we appreciate your support because
they're doing it in all the Western countries.
Yeah, it's happening across the world, and we all know this, and it's happening in different ways. And these demons are very deceptive, and that's what they're doing. So the more we can all band together as one in Christ alone, regardless of political party.
Come and subscribe.
Communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to. Here we go. We got Charlie. All right.
Across the country, honored to be with you. You can email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. Excellent event last evening in Reno, Nevada. It's great to see so many of you. I cannot emphasize enough the win for liberty, the win for humanity, that the liberation of Twitter has meant for all of us. It's remarkable. Liberating Twitter from what it once was to what it is now is a win for the narrative. It's a win for truth. It's a win as we try to fight back against this uniparty regime, the tyrants, and the authoritarian dictators that are running the country. Elon Musk, even if they shut down Twitter today, will go down as a major hero for allowing us to be able to speak, to question narratives, to get the truth out. Elon Musk got himself in a little bit of trouble yesterday.
I mean, Elon Musk can turn it around if he actually told the truth about NASA moon landings, like so many things. And he's still got a huge grift on that. So I don't know.
Elon Musk responded to a tweet that I actually don't think the tweet is that smart. I think one part of it is legit, but I think another part of it is not so great. But the essence of what Elon was responding to is a major thought crime in America. That the world's wealthiest man would comment on this is historic. So here's the tweet, and it's responding to a video And the video was basically a white father with his white son saying to his son, hey, you think that, you're posting online all this anti-Semitic stuff. Why don't you go and say this to these Jewish families' face? Pretty powerful advertisement. This is the ad, okay? It's about a minute long. It's a powerful ad. And then a person on Twitter responded to this advertisement, and then Elon responded to the person responding to the advertisement. It's important. Bear with us, because right now Elon Musk is being targeted like never before. Elon Musk was supposed to speak at a summit today, and he's been canceled. They don't want to hear from Elon Musk because they are tarring and feathering him as an anti-Semite. They've come after this program for calling us anti-Semites. They're coming after Elon Musk they're calling him an anti-Semite. So here's the advertisement. It's a powerful ad. Play cut 79.
I saw what you've been posting. Hitler was right. I didn't teach you that. You hide behind your screen, spewing all this hatred and ugliness. You got something you want to say? Get out of the truck and say it to their faces.
We got to pump those numbers up.
Yeah, and I just want to point out right here, it says this is paid for by the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism. It's now known as the Blue Square Alliance Against Hate, and it was created by Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots. All right, I'm going to keep playing because he's going to go on.
Okay, so that advertisement then was responded to by this person, the artist formerly known as Eric. Quote, okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I am deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest swear word, let's just say tiniest crap, now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want truth said to your face? There it is. Now, let me just say, this is not a very well-written tweet. I said it's very confusing. I'll go through what they're basically saying here. Half of this tweet is true, half of it I don't like. You want the truth said to your face? There it is. Elon responds, and he says, you have said the actual truth. Now, we don't know what part Elon is saying is the actual truth, so let's go through this. Again, it's double negatives and misuse of the word disinterested. It's a strange tweet that Elon pinpointed on here. But the first part is absolutely true. Let's go to this. Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true, the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that. In fact, we have seen this with the recent retreat of Jewish donations that are no longer going to be administered to colleges, right? Mark Rowan, Leon Kaufman. Can we get that full list? It's very powerful. The part of so that's totally true. And by the way, Tucker Carlson reinforces this. So I'm going to it was quite a day on the internet. Tucker Carlson was interviewing Candace Owens. We have Candace Owens coming up next hour. And Tucker Carlson mentions that Jewish Americans have primarily been financing cultural Marxist ideas. We said this, by the way, last week, and people came after us. We actually said it in a different way. We said, I'm glad that Jewish Americans are reconsidering their financing of cultural Marxism. And people misunderstood it intentionally and slandered us as being anti-Semites. But listen to this. Tucker Carlson is completely correct by saying this, that the philosophical foundation of anti-whiteness has been largely financed by Jewish donors in the country. Play cut 92.
However, then I thought, well, wait a second. If the biggest donors at, say, Harvard have decided, well, we're going to shut it down now.
And then look who they had as like the leaders of like religious movements, civil rights movements, lumping that all again into these socialist religious movements, completely against Christianity, like, but again, propping them up even as Christians and stuff like that in many cases, and or even Muslims in other cases, and communists. And so if you look at these groups as well, look who the leaders of these communist parties were and these other like movements, right? So people that were funding it, right? They, again, a lot of these people were, again, targeting the groups of people that they wanted to exploit the most. And it wasn't their own.
Where were you the last 10 years when they were calling for white genocide? You were allowing this. And then I found myself really hating those people, actually. That you're okay with that? On what grounds were you okay with that?
And this is what I've been trying to explain to the pro-Israel lobby, that what you are seeing as lack of support is people that are asking the question is, where were you as we have endured all of this?
You were paying for it, actually.
Right.
You were paying for it.
You were paying for it.
You were calling my children immoral for their skin color. You paid for that.
And
so why shouldn't I be mad at you? I don't understand.
So what Tucker is saying is similar to part of the tweet that Elon isolated. That is true. That, let's just say liberals, but that includes Jewish financiers of liberal causes, didn't really care about University of Chicago having courses that saying, you know, the problem with whiteness. They didn't really care about American Express saying that we must eliminate whiteness. They didn't, in fact, they were supportive of it. A lot of liberals were okay with critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Left movements.
ADL went all in on the BLM type narrative. And ADL is one of many different organizations
in China
that were perfectly fine with the growing anti-white wave. Now, to be clear, many of these Jews did not fully understand what they were financing. Their intentions were probably pretty good. As we've said, intentions mean next to nothing here. And I'm sure some of the intentions weren't so good, but let's just intentions aside. I'm not that interested in intentions. I'm interested in actions, okay? Intentions are very hard to pinpoint. We get too caught up in the conservative movement on intentions. I learned this from the great...
He's focused on actions, not intentions, because intentions are really hard to prove. Even in this case of his own assassination, it seems to be true.
Dennis Prager, who says, stop focusing on intentions, focus on the actions. It's a much better way to judge whether or not something is right or wrong. Intentions, as I've said before, and there's a video that went viral, the Nazis thought they were doing good. They convinced themselves that they were doing good, when in reality, they were doing some of the greatest evil in the history of the species. So, again, Hamas thinks they're doing good. I could go through all this, but they're doing evil. So I'm not convinced that somebody's intentions are what matter. Many Jewish financiers culturally given money to George Washington University, Columbia, Yale, Dartmouth, over and over and over again, hundreds of millions of dollars, financing many nonprofits, that many of them are now recognizing and realizing this was a bad idea. So I'm going to build this out because the second part of the tweet I don't like, and it ties into some news that is not so good for AOC. It's not good for Ayanna Pressley. I'm going to isolate that in just a second. But let me just say before I talk about My Patriot Supply, it is sloppy, it is shallow, it is wrong and repulsive to call a great man, Elon Musk, an anti-Semite. It cheapens the label of anti-Semitism. It is not good for anybody.
And that was it. All right, let me pull it off.
Yeah, I think.
All right, that was good. He had some really good content. Long video today. And yeah, so on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.